stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Chairman Pascal has a work commitment this evening, so he cannot attend. This is my first city council meeting that I'm chairing, so please be patient and please be kind to me on Facebook. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to Chairman Donovan of, may I have the clerk conduct the roll call?
Councilwoman Melly Garthwaite,
Melly Garthwaite, Council at Large, present.
Councilman Brian Locks,
Brian Locks, Council at Large, present.
Councilwoman Ann Heffernan,
Councilwoman Ann Heffernan, 1st District, here.
Councilwoman Michelle Coletti,
Councilwoman Michelle Coletti, 2nd District, present.
Councilwoman Sarah Akbarali,
Councilwoman Sarah Akbarali, 3rd District, present.
Councilman Gary Donovan,
Councilman Gary Donovan, 4th District, present.
Councilman Edward McMillan,
Councilman Edward McMillan, present.
Councilwoman Dawn Callahan,
Councilwoman Dawn Callahan, 6th District, present.
Councilwoman Catherine Tucker is absent. Councilman Christopher Vargo,
Christopher Vargo, 8th District, present.
Councilwoman Katie Muller,
Katie Muller, 9th District, present.
Councilman Stephen Johnstone,
Councilman Stephen Johnstone, 10th District, present.
and Chairman Nicholas Pascal is absent. And we have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I will turn the meeting over to Chairman Donovan of Public Lands Committee to hold the public meeting.
Thank you, Chairman. Time is now 6:58, and the Public Lands Committee, public hearing for Public Lands Committee on Communication D. This is from September 9th, 2024, agenda from Mayor Dorinda Boer regarding the sale of city-owned property at 69 Westfield Street. Does anyone from the public like to speak on this? For a second time, anyone from the public like to speak on this? For a third and final time, anyone like to speak on this? Seeing none, public hearing is over. Time is now 6:59.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. We're just going to wait 1 minute to 7 o'clock to start public session.
We're good.
Okay, the time is 7 o'clock, and we will enter public session. Would anybody from the public like to address the City Council? Ma'am? Ma'am, and then...
Here. Good evening, everybody. First meeting I ever been to. So I'm just...
Ma'am, I'm sorry, could you state your name
Oh,
and
I'm
your address
sorry,
for the record?
Barbara Lyman of West Haven, Connecticut for 30 years. I'm coming here because I already wrote the mayor.
Your address, ma'am? I'm sorry, I need your address for the
Oh,
record.
28 Ridgecourt West, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm addressing the committee in reference to noise nuisance about hound dogs barking 24/7. We talked to the landlord at Rolling Ridge already. They sent notices out, so I'm just going by what I was told. I wrote the mayor, and then I was told to come to city council. I know everybody needs a service dog and whatever, but it's just getting out of hand at Rolling Ridge that I call it the dog park now. You know, you have kids there, you have families that want peace of mind. So maybe the committee could just interact and say, listen, put a collar, put a muzzle on. You know, people are doing homework, people want to sleep. We don't want to hear hound dogs, Great Danes, Huskies barking 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And a lot of tenants been getting combative with each other. Don't want to see that. So that's all I have to say. So I don't know how we could go about this being as smooth as possible. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much.
Would anybody else from the public like to address the city council? For-
I am Kathy Hebert, 166 Bloom Street, West Haven. And tonight I'm here as the president of Sandy Point Neighborhood Association. And I only have a couple of these so you can share them. Basically, it's just a proposal that our grants committee of the Sandy Point Neighborhood Association has put together an idea. And it's more for your information because we'll be asking for money from the West Haven Community Block Grant, which comes out November 1st. But we're talking about having a small pilot program in our area within our boundaries for homeowners and we're only going to start small, like 5, 6, 7 rain barrels, and offer them to whoever homeowners apply for them, free with the kit to hook it up to their gutters. And I put an attachment in there because it will benefit the city of West Haven. And then looking forward next year, if this works, I'd like to come back to the community grant or whatever other grant program I can find and enlarge it to maybe 50 to 75 rain barrels. Because I've had one, I've actually have 2 that were given to me by the New Haven organization, West River Watershed Coalition, and I've had it on my house and garage for 5 years now, 2019, and it's made a big difference, and it helps prevent when we have those crazy rainstorms of washing all the oil from the cars, the gas from the cars, the dog poop into our sewers, and ultimately keeping Long Island Sound cleaner. So that's it. I just wanted to give you a heads up. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Would anybody else from the public like to address the city council? For a second time, would anybody from the public like to address the city council? For a third and final time.
Okay, my name is Dale Isla, 90 Honeypot Road. First of all, my husband Jurgen would like to know, because of the Kimberly Avenue Bridge, what is the update on the boat ramp that they're going to have? We heard that there was a grant 100 years ago, and we were just wondering. The second thing, I am aware that the assessments for our property have changed from 5 years to 4 years. My question is, are we still going to get the new assessment around Thanksgiving? That was, that is what I heard. I was just wondering if that was true. The third item I'd like to talk about is I talked to some people from West Haven and also surrounding towns, Milford and Orange to be exact. The question is, if we are contemplating to reducing the leaf bag collection back to 2 times or charging, should we look at the budget? Maybe we need to do a deeper dive into it to see what we can eliminate instead of removing the service from the taxpayers.
Thank you for your comments. Would anybody else from the public like to address the city council? Sir?
Hi, my name's Rich Hebert. I live at 166 Bloom Street. And tonight I'd like to talk about the Water Pollution Control Commission. I attended one of their meetings, and actually I attended more than one of their meetings. And it seems to be some sort of a disconnect between them and the state as to what can be done to improve the condition of our equipment. We have a physical plant there that includes an incinerator that is not working. That incinerator would eliminate a huge portion of our budget because we have to pay for shipping what they call cake, which is the solid waste, out of West Haven to Naugatuck. Now, I know this is a sore issue, but it goes beyond this council's purview. It has been in existence for many years. What's going to happen in the next couple of years is that the facility where we ship that cake out to is going to close. And we are going to be left hanging because we don't have a method to get rid of the sludge that's being transported up there. Now, we have to pay for the trucks. We have to rent dumpsters for them to bring that up there. And it's costing the city a lot of money. And I know that the repairs are going to cost a lot of money. Everything is about money, as we all know. And the thing that is sort of irritating is that the longer we wait, the more the costs go up. Whether you're buying pencils or anything, the cost keeps going up. And the costs for this facility have been astronomical. And they're going to continue. They're not going to get any better unless we do something about it. And I did write to the State Commissioner of Air, because he has some sort of permit that he's supposed to be sending back to the commission. I have not had a response from him, and I find that very irritating. At least they say could acknowledge that they received my email. But it seems to me that we need somebody to kind of push this out there, find out what the problems are, and to see what we're going to do, make a plan, because this is going to hurt us in the long run. This is a very, very expensive proposition. There's a lot of money that's tied up in there, and we have I believe what I was told, that we're one of the 4 facilities in the state that have the permitting process, and we have a facility. We're not using it. If we can get that up and running and make it usable, we will be saving a lot of money, and we may be even able to have other cities send their waste that can be processed in our facility. And all of this would also tie in with the odor problem, because a lot of the residents are complaining about odor. The incinerator eliminates most of that. So for your consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Would anybody else from the public like to address the city council? For a second time, would anybody from the public like to, ma'am?
Hi, good evening. Vanessa Suarez, 740 Quinnipiac Ave, New Haven. I'm here tonight with a lot of concerns, and specifically to speak regarding the ARPA paving resolution that you will later be speaking tonight. The reason for my concern is because I'm not sure if you all are aware, but we attended an ARPA committee, the last ARPA committee meeting, in which there was quite an interesting debate about the expenditure of $600,000 to a parking lot for the fire department. And, my understanding from reading this ARPA paving resolution is that it would create a contingency fund that says that any and all money should go toward paving. And I can understand that while potholes are an issue and every resident would want this to be addressed, the original proposal that the fire department had put forward was not to extend a parking lot, not to spend $600,000 for a parking lot. It was to acquire and extend the firehouse. So they're in fact not going to go forward with their original plan. The fire department is spending roughly $500,000 to purchase a 2-bedroom house and demolish it just for a parking lot. 3 of the 5 ARPA committee members expressed their disapproval for this expenditure by the fire department. One of the committee members said, and I quote, "I could think of a lot of things to do with $600,000 for our city." As a taxpayer, he felt this was very outrageous. And so I'm really concerned. I don't know if you all are aware of the changes of this, but to essentially, I feel like passing today this kind of resolution would in fact, you would be shutting the doors on victims. I don't understand why, when we've come here for weeks and weeks, for months actually, since the beginning of the year, and shared with you not just Roya's death, but how victims are being failed, why this council does not feel like they should be allocating funding to direct services for victims. While we cannot service Roya because she is in fact dead, because she was failed, she sought services and did everything. We are here today because Roya was very, very active in her life. and did not get the support. And it's not just Roya. Last month, we had 4 women killed in our state. 4 women were murdered last month, which brings us into Domestic Violence Awareness Month. A child was murdered this month because of intimate partner violence. That was Jathal. We have a woman who was also murdered this month because of intimate partner violence. She was 81 in Cromwell, a white woman in the Apple Rehabilitation Center. So while you might want to believe, right, that the agencies that are in place that are supposed to service victims are working as they should, unfortunately, the reality is they cannot service all women, and they are in fact failing victims. The constant deaths of women is proof that we are failing women, that we are not servicing the best ways that they need to. And to defer your responsibility to state government is very irresponsible, and it's very rude, and it insults not just the memory of Roya, but other victims who have died in this city as a result of intimate partner violence and domestic violence. And so I'm very concerned, and I would hope that this council questions more how the $600,000 is going to be spent, and if it should be spent on a parking lot, because that is outrageous. The best argument I heard in the ARPA committee meeting for why they needed this parking lot is because the fire department is being forced to do dangerous activity because they don't have enough space. They just don't have enough space. And so they have to do dangerous activity. I'm not sure what that dangerous activity entails, but I'm having a really hard time understanding how we would allocate $600,000 to a parking lot because of dangerous activity. But we have women in your city that are dying, and if not dying, very close to their death, right? Femicide, which is the killing of women, is the last form of gender-based violence. It is the most cruel and deadliest form of violence, and it happens after many forms of violence have already occurred to women. So I'm having a really hard time understanding why we would be alarmed and we would allocate $600,000 for a parking lot over dangerous activity. I don't know what that dangerous activity and if it has led to any deaths, but I can tell you that women in your city are in fact dying because of domestic violence. I know there are no shelters in your city for women to get these services here. And so I don't understand why we continue to, and while we will pursue as an organization avenues on the state level, there is very much a lot that can be done here in West Haven. And when we've came here before and we asked that the $164,000 remaining funds be allocated for direct services to victims, and now we see that there's a resolution where that would create a contingency fund. And I understand if you want to create a contingency fund, I understand how budgets work and how that would make sense. But if you pass a contingency, if you pass this resolution that says any and all funds not used or not allocated, and you don't know, I would hope that the $600,000 is not spent on a parking lot. I would hope that this money goes back, because I think that if there is a department here in the city that is not going to use funds as it proposed, and it should give those funds back, right? So I'm having a really hard understanding how this is being allowed, how this is moving through. And I would hope that this committee really, this council really takes a moment to pause to ask questions and to not rush to approving something that, when I really believe that there's a conversation to be had about how this $600,000 should be spent if it's not going to be spent on a parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Would anyone else from the public like to address the city council?
Hi all, good evening. My name is Nika Zeresvan. I live at 740 Quinnipiac Avenue, New Haven, Connecticut. I'm here also because the paving resolution is being proposed, and because I was also witness to the discussion at the ARPA committee, and there's been a lot of back and forth of who actually makes decisions about how the ARPA money is spent. Is it the mayor's office? Is it the city council? Does the ARPA committee technically have disclosure of what they approve and don't approve, and how is that revised? We've been told different things from different people. But I do believe that there is some discretion and there is some power on behalf of municipal governments to invest in domestic violence prevention. In the past meetings that we addressed specifically how municipalities are investing in domestic violence prevention. And there's a reason for that. It's because they're noticing discrepancies. They're trying to fill in the gaps of resources and the barriers that people face that are caused by just relying on state funding. We know from Roya's story why this is necessary. We know the barriers that she faced. She had a long route home to the shelter because she was working in New Haven, and there were no shelters available in West Haven. She was not able to stay at a shelter in New Haven. She had to go outside of the city. They were full, they were at capacity. And so she had a longer commute home. And that resulted in her almost getting kicked out of the shelter because they were telling her, you're not coming back here on time. But that's where her job was, right? And so this is impacting women. They discharged Roya in 2 months. And they said, you have to go back and live with your abuser if that's what your options are, because we are at capacity. I mean, how could we rely on state funding when we are constantly being told by social workers at the shelter that we are at capacity? What needs to happen? I understand that there needs to be more funding on all levels, a federal level, state level, but what is the responsibility of municipalities to take a look at how the police department is responding to domestic violence? How can we help fill in the gaps that are created by how the police department is responding, right? When we don't have a shelter, what happens? Too many times we come to address discrimination and bias after a woman is dead. Like right now in Roya's case, we're reviewing what did police do and not do in the case of Roya trying to fight for her life, right? And we found out the discrepancies, but Roya is gone. And there's still pushback to implementing changes, even though she's been killed, right? So what is our dedication to prevention when we identify that there are issues with the municipal response, right? It's not state troopers coming in and investigating a woman's death, right? It's the West Haven Police Department. Hi, Chief. Roya's case, as well as the case of a Turkish woman who was killed within hours of reporting abuse, indicate these discrepancies and gaps, right? There's a reason why I can't fathom the reason why West Haven Police Department told Roya's family not to report her missing. That is a discrepancy that needs to be filled. We need an advocate to address when women are facing discrimination by the police department, by any department of the municipality. That is the municipality's responsibility, is to make sure that its departments are doing what they need to do to prevent women's deaths. And when they're not doing that, it needs to invest in resources to make sure that the municipality has the right response, right? And so I hope that we honor Roya's life and that we honor the women in our city by investing in the prevention of their deaths. Truly, 3 out of 5 members of the ARPA committee could not put their name next to approving a budget that said, all right, it's okay for the fire department to spend $600,000 on expanding their parking lot. They said, I don't feel comfortable with that. I'm not sure that most taxpayers would either. They compared it to the New Haven Police Department. So when taxpayers see what money is being spent on in the city, how easily we are trusting departments with their discretion and allocation of funds, we ask ourselves, why is the only contingency fund going towards paving when a woman has died? Truly, we could be able to split the contingency funds, right? Half of it could maybe go to women. The other half could go to the potholes. But at least half. Right? So there are workarounds, there are solutions. You can say no to this resolution and ask them to put something better forward that actually takes women into account. Knowing that that money from the fire department might come back to you. I hope it does. I hope it gets reinvested in the city. And I'm not even asking for all of it to go to women. That is my dream. But I'm not even expecting that. I'm just saying we would be remiss to have lost Roya in 2023 during the impacts of COVID-19 and the at capacity level of these shelters and not spend $1 of ARPA money to prevent more women's deaths. Every time I stand up here, I'm fighting for her legacy. And her legacy is not just about her. It's about other women here. And I just want to see that. I believe that there is power amongst you all to do something about this. If it's the mayor, I hope, Mayor Boer, you express discretion on how the fire department uses these funds, on how the contingency plans are framed, on who gets prioritized. And if you are all to vote on this today, that means you have a voting power on whether this is how the money is allocated. Sure, you don't have 100% of discretion, but you have some. I won't take more of your time, but I really hope that you hear us on this one. It has been hard to come. And we are happy to put a proposal before you, but not if the door is shut. Not if there's no possibility of any funding allocated to women. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the city council? For a second time, would anybody else like to address the city council? For a third and final time, would anybody else like to address the city council? Seeing none, public session is closed at 7:23. May I have a motion to approve the journal of, I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:23. And may I have a motion to approve the journal of September 23, 2024?
Motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Hold on. 3 abstentions?
No, it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, so 5 abstentions. Motion passes. Okay, one bit of housekeeping. We need to make a correction to this evening's agenda. Looking for a motion to correct communication G from this evening's agenda to read all throughout the agenda from Michael Gormany, Director of Finance, regarding transfer funds for fiscal year 2023 to 2024 in the amount of $990,000 from account number 101-21054-54390 General Fund to account number 2404-8048-48100 Sewer Operating Fund.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And this time I will ask the clerk to distribute the communications.
We have before us communication 2022-021 ARPA 10/15/2024 from Ken Carney regarding ARPA Painter Park Fieldhouse Project, which is being assigned to the council as a whole. Communication 2023-020 ARPA 10/15/2024 from Ken Carney regarding the ARPA paving resolution of May 28th, 2024 being assigned to the council as a whole. Communication A from the tax collector regarding overpayment refunds for September 2024, which will be filed with tonight's minutes. Communication B from Mayor Dorinda Boer regarding the proposal for the Savin Rock Conference Center property being assigned to the Public Lands Committee, Chairman Donovan. Communication C from Chief Joseph Perno regarding animal shelter donations being assigned to the Finance Department, Chairwoman Akbarali. Communication D from Robert Sandella, Acting Commissioner of Public Works, requesting approval to install additional lighting in front of 39 Harold Street, being assigned to the Streets and Squares Committee, Chairman Donovan. Communication E from John Lewis, City Clerk, regarding a request to approve a contract with InfoQuick Solutions, Inc., being assigned to the Finance Committee, Chairwoman Akbarali. Communication F from Mayor Dorinda Boer regarding the issuance of a bond ordinance appropriating $1,694,000 for the costs associated with planning, design, and rehabilitation of sewer pipes and manholes related to the Dawson Avenue area, Contract 5, being assigned to the Finance Committee, Chairwoman Akbarali. Communication G from Michael Gormany, Director of Finance, regarding transfer of funds for fiscal year 2023-2024 in the amount of $990,000 from account number 101-21054-54390 General Fund to account number 240-48048-48100 Sewer Operating Fund, being assigned to the Finance Committee, Chairwoman Akbarali. And Communication H from Michael Gormany, Director of Finance, regarding the approval of various transfers to reconcile the budget for the fiscal year of 2023-2024 in the aggregate amount of $6,193,592 as set forth on the attached Exhibit A hereto and incorporated by reference, being assigned to the Finance Committee, Chairwoman Akbarali. And that concludes our communications for this evening.
Thank you,
Mr.
Madam
Chairman.
Clerk. At this time, we will recess into committee meetings. First up is council as a whole. The time is 7:27. And first up is communication 2022-021 ARPA 10/15/2024 from Ken Carney regarding ARPA Painter Park Fieldhouse Project. I'm looking for a motion to approve.
Motion.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Mr. Carney?
Mr. Chairman, I have a updated tracker in front of us tonight. Did you want to talk about any jobs specifically? Did you want to talk about the proposed resolutions? Do you want me to go through the tracker? What's best for you?
Yeah, why don't we talk about 2022-021 since it's out for discussion at the moment? So that would be the Painter Park Fieldhouse.
Great. So we're proposing that the funds be moved and be redefined to work on structures and hardscape at Painter Park. The bid that came in for the large Butler building we wanted to build, the field house, came in at $1.8 million. What caused that price to escalate was the amount of digging, excavation, and the connection to utilities that were very far away from the building. We had less than $1 million, so that job could not move forward. So we're asking to reallocate the money in Painter Park.
So the balance that's being asked for this evening, the 958,000, that is what's left over of the $1 million because we've spent the remainder on soft costs to date?
That's correct.
Okay. Any discussion with Mr. Carney on this project? Councilman Donovan?
Thank you, Chairman. Hey, Ken, how are you?
Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. All right, so I understand that obviously the field house is out. What do they plan on using this money for within Painter Park?
So we have 6 tennis courts that are unusable. They're made of asphalt. One plan is to take 4 of the tennis courts, do post-tension concrete, take down the trees that ruin the tennis courts, do new fencing, build the tennis courts to the proper specifications, and 2 of those courts would double as pickleball. There's also the possibility of fixing up some of the other structures, such as the wooden playscape on Kelsey, those kind of things.
And that would, all that right there would use up that money for pre-post?
It would, yes.
There wouldn't be anything left over from that?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
And that money, that's enough to do what the vision is for all the aspects of that project. The 958 is enough to cover
yes.
the totality of that vision?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Carney? Councilwoman Heffernan?
Again, how are you
Hello.
tonight?
Good. How are you?
Well, thank you. You know, in the back of Painter Park, there was like a bike track back there. I don't know if you've ever seen it, or they used to ride bikes back there, and it was like almost like a motocross kind of thing. It was, not ramps or anything, but just like slalom hills almost like. And I was wondering, was there ever any discussion about maybe redoing that or checking that out? Or
Not that particular discussion. However, 2 of the tennis courts would be excluded from this rebuild, and that could be used for bicycles, according to your commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councilwoman Garthwaite?
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Melly.
I am excited for this because we've had a lot of asks for those tennis courts to be fixed. I think the first resident to bring this to our attention was I think it was a year and a half ago. Silvana Apicella had brought it forward and we talked about it. Can you just tell us how many tennis courts will be fixed? Because she's going to ask me that. And how many tennis courts are going to become pickleball courts?
So there's 6 courts total. None of them can be fixed. They've got to be completely rebuilt.
Right.
Several trees have to come down. The fencing has to be replaced. The courts are cascading on a landscape that will be excavated and brought up to the same level. So 4 of the courts will now be on the same level. And 2 of those courts will be regulation tennis courts, and 2 will be regulation tennis courts plus pickleball regulation.
Okay.
So you're going to get 4 brand new courts. And I think the thing to stress here is, unlike asphalt, which has a very limited lifespan, we're proposing post-tension concrete. Same thing we built the high school tennis courts out of. And that will last much longer than asphalt.
Okay. So just for anybody that missed it, the tennis courts cost
We're thinking
ridiculous amounts of money.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is great because it's going to help, the city avoid any liability for children or other people that are using the court who fall or get hurt using it. So thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councilman Johnson.
How we doing, Ken?
Good, sir. How are you?
Living the dream, just like every other day. So, timeline. We're getting there. So, first question, not a big one. So, obviously, it's October, middle of October. We're not going to be working on this anytime soon, but we have to lock in the funds to make sure it's allocated for that project. Do you foresee, because I got to be the guy to ask that question, any hiccups in this? Because once we allocate it, we can't come back with the time frame that we have. And I trust your judgment on this one. Is it the $1 million cushion and whatever little bits left over is going to go towards landscaping, whatever fencing details? I know there's some monster trees down there and tree work's not cheap anymore. So is that the game plan of this? That $1 million pretty much locks us in with who's going to do the job, and there's no afterthought of, uh-oh.
So your mayor has put together a great finance team. We have contingency plans. The team is all over it. For this particular project, the goal is to go through procurement, go to MARB, get the contract signed sometime in December, and then we have until 2026, December of 26, to do the job. We're very careful about making sure everything's included. We do have the option of moving excess funds from other projects around after December 31st of 24. But we're pretty confident that the money we have here will do the job.
Perfect. So the next question is just for kicks and giggles.
Sure.
The ETA on the start of this would be what? Next spring, summer?
Probably April.
Okay, perfect. That's all I have, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Johnstone. Any other questions from the council? Councilwoman Callahan?
Hello, Brian. I have a quick question. Will they be illuminated at night so we can use the courts at night?
No.
That's all I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Quick and easy. Councilman Locks?
That's okay.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioning today, Kerrigan boilers.
The heat. So the state law is the heat has to be on October 15th.
Okay.
The heat was on this morning.
Great.
1 boiler's operating, providing heat. Now we need 2 boilers to operate if it gets down to below 0. The second boiler will be operating in 2 weeks. So we made it.
Great. The babies are going to have heat.
They're going to have heat.
That's all I cared about.
You talking about the teachers or the kids? I'm sorry. No,
Thank you.
Ooh, that's bad. I'm married to a teacher. Stop it.
Anybody else on the council? Mayor, did you have some comments?
I did. I just want to clarify, and I think Ken can probably, can I just say this for 1 second? So, to Councilman Johnstone's question about making the deadline, I just want to explain that if we do an MOU to a department, then that is considered obligated. Correct, Ken?
So it's considered obligated if the department is performing the task. Where it falls short is if we do an MOU and that department has to do a contract with a third-party vendor, it doesn't work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So allocating the funding to Park and Rec Department through an MOU still doesn't unless we have a contract. So the housing crisis that we were going to put MOU to health, and we're going to put the youth programs to the youth services through an MOU, they still have to be under contract.
No, it's a little different there. Because those agencies are performing that task, my understanding is those MOUs will work.
Okay.
Because Park and Rec does not build tennis courts, the argument could be made, they need to have, they're not going to have a hand in the building of the tennis courts. That's the
Okay.
problem.
So just to clarify, so for example, the housing crisis grant we've gone out to RFP for, we're going to do an MOU to our health department because they work on warming centers. And that will satisfy the obligation by December 2024. So we don't have to worry about that while we continue to work on that. The youth programs, where is it? Youth programs, 250,000, that will go to youth services department through an MOU. That's considered obligated by
Correct.
December while we continue to work on those programs.
Yes.
The stormwater capital fund and problem areas, we're doing an MOU for flooding to public works so that we can continue to work on all of our catch basins. That will satisfy the obligation for December 20.
That has been satisfied. So the MOU, as you know, is done.
Mhm.
In that particular situation, because they're self-performing and they already have a contract with Cerulli, totally obligated.
Okay. And then there was one other one. Okay, but that doesn't work for the police storage shed police department. We can't do an MOU for that because that's not what the police do. They don't build a shed. Okay. So we're going to do an MOU for every department that we can for funding if it's related to the line item to satisfy the obligation. Everything else we got to get under by the right. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
It was kind of a statement, kind of a question.
Thank you.
Yeah, and any other questions specific to the Painter Park project? Councilwoman Heffernan.
So because the bid was way over what we had budgeted with the ARPA funds, we weren't able to continue on it. So we had a memorandum of understanding. Is that what an MOU is?
It is, but in this case, it's not an MOU situation.
We
In
have a
this case,
resolution?
in this case, the council has made a resolution to build that team room, if you will.
Because it's
okay?
completely different, or?
Because it's different, we need you to approve a new resolution directing those funds, targeting those funds to what we're doing now.
If there's money left over, I don't think there will be, but if there were, what would happen to that money?
All right, so I think that's a question you can ask about all the jobs.
Okay.
So what happens is, the rule is that you can move money around after December 31st if you're short in one project and over another project, okay? The problem is those projects have to be identified and signed for prior to December 31st,
Couldn't be a new
which is
project.
why we're coming up with this asphalt paving program, which may not receive any funds, but it creates a bucket to put money into in the event that we have an extra X amount of thousands of dollars that will not fit in the existing buckets. Now, if you think about it, it's almost impossible to spend exactly to a budget. You're either always a little bit over, a little bit under. In this case, we don't have the option of being over, right? So any money that we're under would go to that paving ordinance.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the explanation.
Any other questions for Mr. Carney on this project? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you read the resolution?
To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Council as a whole, to whom was referred the matter of a resolution regarding the ARPA Painter Park Fieldhouse project, reports that the committee met on the 15th day of October to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Whereas the city is in receipt of certain federal coronavirus stimulus funds, hereinafter referred to as ARPA funds, whereas former Mayor Nancy R. Rossi previously submitted to the council an outline plan for the expenditure of ARPA funds, which has been supplemented by Mayor Dorinda K. Borer, Mayor. Whereas the city has financial responsibility for the appropriation of ARPA funds under Section 4 of the city charter, entitled Supplemental Appropriation. Whereas the mayor, her administration, and impaneled citizens review committee, ARPA committee, have executive duties for administering the ARPA funds, including but not limited to the purchasing requirements of Chapter 42 of the Code of the City of West Haven, attached heretofore for reference. Whereas the council is required to appropriate funds for projects the council selects to fund. Whereas this resolution is intended to supplement previous resolutions made on the same subjects. Resolved that the City Council hereby appropriates funding for the following project: Parks and Recreation upgrades up to $950,000. A total of up to $958,000 is appropriated to fund, renovate, and/or reconstruction of park structures, groundscape, and other general upgrades to Painter Park. This resolution is intended to supersede and replace the council's prior resolution dated June 9th, 2022, which appropriated $1 million in funding for the development of plans, specifications, and bid documents for a proposed field house athletic facility at Painter Park, with any construction plan and cost estimates and final budget subject to future council authorization. Painter Park Fieldhouse Project Number 2022-021. The remaining funds from the appropriation for Project 2022-021, $958,000, after payment design fees for potential Fieldhouse project, are hereby reallocated and appropriated to fund the Parks and Recreation upgrades projects. The balance of the Painter Park Fieldhouse project and associated funding is hereby withdrawn and terminated. Further resolved that Dorinda K. Borer, as mayor of the city of West Haven, shall A, develop a program narrative and project budget for the ARPA-funded programs listed above. B, report said narrative, budget, and resulting expense accounting reports to the city council for oversight and monitoring no less than once monthly. C, that monthly reports to the council continue until all funds are expended and final reports are made to the U.S. Department of the Treasury for the ARPA-funded projects. D, that the contingency fund shall remain unappropriated until the city council authorizes transfer to an approved expense account. E, that all project cost overruns shall be approved by the city council before costs are incurred. And F, that all project surpluses be returned to the ARPA contingency fund for further action by the city council. Further resolved that Dorinda Borer, as mayor of the city of West Haven, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents related to this resolution on behalf of the city of West Haven, and to do and perform all acts and things which she deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all agreements and documents contemplated by such documents.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I think I jumped the gun by asking for the motion initially. Councilman Johnstone, is it still your motion to approve this resolution?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilwoman Callahan, is it still your second to approve this resolution? Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Ken, before we go into the next communication, do you have just a general update that you want to present to the council on your tracker?
So we're getting down to the end of the game here. I think we have everything pretty well under control with a good plan to commit everything. Are there any specific questions on any of the projects from any council people?
Councilman Donovan?
Thank you. Yeah, I know the mayor brought up the housing crisis grant. Can you just explain for some of the council members here that weren't involved with that, what that's for?
So, yeah. The mayor said.
So we hadn't had a warming center or a place, in extreme heat or extreme cold in the city. And last year, I started one over at the Johnson's Noble Community Center, which is not ideal because that's where our early childhood program is, although the warming center portion would close before the children got to the building. So we're using that housing crisis funds. We just went out to bid to ask for a nonprofit that doesn't have to be a nonprofit, but an organization that wants to manage a warming center for us, because it's difficult for us to be in the business to manage the warming center. You have to have security, you have to have staff there. There's certain components you need to have. So we went out to bid for that. We just got the bids back, I think, today or Friday. As you may recall, the prior council and administration had put it out to bid, and there's an organization from New Haven that was contracted to do outreach to homeless in West Haven. And they were going to hire an outreach worker and help with placing individuals, and that didn't pan out. They didn't fulfill their contract, so we canceled their contract when I came on board because it was just kind of lingering. So we're looking to use that housing crisis, but we also use that funds for to help people that are displaced. When we need to find them, let's say a security deposit. Let's say it's a family, especially when there's children involved. If they're living in a hotel, we had a family just this last week that are living in a hotel. They had to leave the hotel. The child wasn't in school, so we do what we can with some of that funding to help. We don't have enough money for everybody, but if we could get a facility where people can lay their head at night when it's hot or cold, that's what we could do with that funding.
Thank you with that. I still got right. So Ken, if I know we're running real close, if anybody has any new ideas they want to bring up, any new proposals on something, when is the absolute deadline for that, or has that passed?
Well, I think
and depending on what the project is.
Yeah, I think depending on what the project is, it has passed. What happens going forward is you have to get through the MARB gate before December 31st. Before you get through MARB, you have to get through procurement. Procurement is 4 or 5 weeks. MARB's running out of meetings. We're kind of there.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. All set. Thank you, Chairman.
I have a question to go back to the housing crisis. Those funds, this may be for you, Mayor, those funds are not specific for the unhoused. Is any resident that has a housing crisis. Is that our understanding? Or is it specifically the unhoused? So I think generally it was conceptualized that the housing crisis would help those that are unhoused find temporary shelter. But is it anybody that finds themselves displaced from their permanent residence would be eligible for those funds?
The RFP right now is for a warming and a cooling center because there isn't enough there for a shelter. There isn't enough funds for a shelter. We would love a shelter. But the funds that were allocated previously specifically for a housing crisis is enough to manage a warming and cooling center through the next, I would say, 3 years. We would have to figure out after 3 years how we're going to help do that, and that buys us a little time. But as long as we obligate it by December 2024, then I think we could go under contract through December 2026.
Okay.
And that'll eat up all of that funding.
Thank you. Councilwoman Garthwaite?
Question for the mayor. Mayor, so I'm specifically interested. You said that this housing crisis, is there any way that we could use a portion of that for, say, victims of domestic violence? Is there any way?
So this is for specifically for warming and cooling shelters because warming centers and cooling centers. A shelter is very different. A shelter has very specific requirements for how it needs to be built out, how you need to have access. There's very specific requirements that we would not be able to meet with this small amount of money.
Okay.
Can somebody who's a victim of domestic violence use our warming and cooling center? Yes, of course they can. But to build a shelter or to even contract for shelter services based on what we would need to be required to do, there's just not enough funding there to do that.
Right, right. Okay, so in that warming shelter, we would potentially have people that could direct victims where to go, what resources they could use.
Yeah, and I just want to remind everybody that in the budget, we put a social worker. We
Right.
added a social worker to the budget for this fiscal year. That has already started. We actually not only added a social worker, but an outreach worker in our health department, a community outreach worker. And they are placed, for example, one day in the library, one day at Wheat, one day at our senior center. She and she are at different areas in the city and public venues that is where we feel can reach the largest population. And they're there as a resource, and they're there as a triage, and they're very educated on what resources are available to anybody who's a victim, where they could go, and who we do contract with. Through our police department, works very closely with an organization in New Haven and an organization in Milford. So our social workers are very versed on that, so that they can help somebody that they come into contact with. And also our police officers are very trained out in the community when they see somebody who is unhoused, how they can help them.
Okay, okay. Thank you for all that. I knew some of that, and I wanted to put it
Yeah.
on record just so that
Yeah.
everyone knows that those resources are available.
Those resources, we added those to the budget specifically to address unhoused and victims. We added the social worker, we added the outreach worker, and that social worker is also working closely with our police department.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All set, Councilwoman? Thank you. Any other questions for Ken? Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. Hey, Ken, can you, I'm sorry if this bothers everyone else, can you refresh my memory on where we stand and what's going on with the police storage shed?
Sure. So the police storage shed also came in way over budget, $800,000. We have $275. In the meantime, we're doing a block building for $597 in Allentown. So the numbers were way higher than they should have been. It's up to the police to come up with a plan. One possible plan is to expand their impound lot, but that's up to them. So as soon as we hear back from them, we'll go out to bid and get something going over there.
So you're telling me no, until you hear from them, that's a, I got
I've heard from them. They're asking questions and making decisions soon.
Okay. And second, I know you've talked about this many times and the hazard of it, the electrical main breakers.
There's a contract that was delivered to the mayor tonight. She hasn't seen it yet. And that is off a state bid list for that work.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ken. Thank you, Chairman.
Ken, there was some discussion earlier about how an MOU may or may not be able to commit the funds. Just based on what you see here on all of the appropriated active projects, are we on track to capture and utilize all of the funds?
I believe we are, and I just want to point out again, the mayor has put together a great team. We met last week. We're meeting again on Friday, and with them running the show on this, we're going to make every dime under the deadline.
Any other questions for Ken, just generally on the projects? Councilwoman Coletti?
Thank you, Chairman. Just a general question. Hey, Ken. This is so this is accurate as of today. The tracker.
The tracker is
allocated by your committee.
No, it doesn't. There's some contracts that were put in the mayor's desk today that will make this number go down.
Okay.
Considerably. There's some transfers that have to take place to the firehouses. That 6.5 million right now is roughly 3.8 million.
Okay. And okay, that was my main question, and then any follow up, but and this is posted on the city's website, the latest one.
I send it to the city to be posted. I don't post it, so I don't know.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No further questions.
Ken, how are we looking at the soft costs?
Soft costs we're going to be fine on. We're not going to come back and ask for additional funds.
Great. Okay. You want to jump into the paving contract?
Sure. So the idea behind the paving contract, as I mentioned earlier, is that we have an identified job approved by the council with a signed contract that becomes a bucket that we can put money into in the event that we don't have places to put money after December 31st. So it's a catch-all safety net.
And can you give us some specifics of what, because I understand what we're doing is we're approving the city to enter into a contract with a contractor on the state bid list, is that correct?
That is correct.
For an amount up to 750, and that is
0 to 750.
0 to
specific,
750. Is that the ceiling that you anticipate after the contingency that we have now, plus any surpluses that we might be tracking? You think that that's the number?
That's the number that I requested because I think it's higher than we're going to need.
Okay.
It's just an absolute safety.
Okay. Any questions for Ken on the paving resolution? Okay, at this time, I will ask the clerk to read the resolution to the record, when she has a moment.
Okay. I'm going to read it from, she didn't give me the other one. I'm just going to read the whereas. How's that sound? Instead of a whole other stuff. Yeah. And it's still long, but. Whereas the city is in receipt of certain federal coronavirus stimulus funds, hereinafter referred to as ARPA funds, whereas former Mayor Nancy R. Rossi previously submitted to the council an outline plan for the expenditure of ARPA funds, which has been supplemented by Mayor Dorinda Boer, Mayor. Whereas the city council has fiscal responsibility for the appropriation of ARPA funds under Section 4 of the city charter entitled Supplemental Appropriation. Whereas the mayor, her administration, and impaneled citizens review committee, ARPA committee, have executive duties for administering ARPA funds, including but not limited to the purchasing requirements of Chapter 42 of the Code of the City of West Haven, attached here 2.4 for reference. Whereas the city council is required to appropriate funds for projects the council selects to fund, whereas this resolution is intended to supplement previous resolutions made on the same subject. Resolved. Paving contract, potential future projects. The city, with the assistance of the ARPA committee, is hereby authorized to enter into a contract with a paving contractor for potential future City of West Haven paving work with a cost between $0 and $750,000 of ARPA funds. This appropriation is to be funded by any unallocated ARPA funds as of December 31st, 2024, and or any existing ARPA surpluses as of December 31st, 2024. The contract must be executed on or before December 31st, 2024, and procurement for the paving contractor shall be done through the cooperative purchasing an entity with a valid state of Connecticut contract number. Further resolved that Dorinda Boer, as mayor of the city of West Haven, shall A, develop a program narrative and project budget for the ARPA-funded programs listed above, B, report said narrative, budget, and resulting expense accounting reports to the city council for oversight and monitoring no less than once monthly, C, that monthly reports to the council continue until all funds are expended and final reports are made to the U.S. Department of Treasury for the ARPA-funded projects. D, that contingency funds shall remain unappropriated until the city council authorizes transfer to an approved expense account. E, that all project cost overruns shall be approved by the city council before costs are incurred. And F, that all project surpluses be returned to the ARPA contingency fund for further action by the city council. Further resolved that Dorinda Boer, as mayor of the city of West Haven, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents related to this resolution on behalf of the city of West Haven, and to do and perform all acts, things which she deems necessary to be appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all documents contemplated by such documents.
Thank you, Stacy. The clerk has read into the record a resolution. Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion. Ken, if we don't do this, then there's a potential that there's money left over, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And can you walk us through the very high level very quickly? What's the process of having a new project approved?
Okay, so the council resolution will give it a project number. It'll then go to procurement. We have the option to put it out to bid or to go to a state contract, which is cooperative purchasing. In this case, state contract makes the most sense because you would probably do that anyway. From there, it goes to the attorney. He creates a contract with all the federal regulations. We then contact the vendor signs the contract. It it goes back to procurement, we get a PO written, and then it goes to MARB for approval, and then it becomes a project.
And it's October 15th, so we have about 10 weeks. To
Well,
the end of the-
I think the goal here would be to get this on the November MARB meeting, I would hope. One of the advantages we have is that the attorney has done so many of these contracts. We have them in stock almost. It's easy to do the contract. It depends on how quickly the vendor will sign the contract. But I think we can make the November meeting.
But our deadline is December 31st, so we have 10 weeks to do.
It's before that,
Before
because for anything over 50,000, it's the last MARB meeting in December.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And if we conceptualized a new project, the time frame would take longer than 10 weeks, I presume.
It could, depending on the project, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. I think that's it.
All right. Everyone have a wonderful night. Thank you for your
Ken.
time. Thank you.
Okay, the time is 8:02, and we are concluding the business of council as a whole. Moving on to the Finance Committee, Chairwoman Akbarelli.
Thank you, Chairman Vargo. The time is now 8:03, and your Committee on Finance is now in session. Members present are Councilman Vargo, Councilman Locks, Councilman Johnstone, and myself, Councilwoman Akbarelli, acting as chair. Our first order of business is the MARB meeting update. Mayor Board, would you like to give us an update on the MARB meeting?
Sure. There wasn't everything passed, and all of our non-labor contracts passed. We had an executive session to talk about the report from Whittlesley and Protivity and the progress that they're making. That takes place in executive session because sometimes there'll be like a weakness in IT that they don't want to disclose publicly. But that went fine, and everything seems to be going swimmingly. With the MARB, we actually, I don't know if you saw the article, but there was a follow-up article saying that West Haven is really making a lot of progress. So one of the MARB members said that we're on our way out of MARB. So we're hanging our hat on that.
Very
But,
positive
yeah.
comment.
Yeah, it was.
Does anybody have any questions for the mayor? Councilman Johnstone?
Thank you, Chairman. Mayor, I don't know if this is too soon. What are the chances of us applying soon to go to Tier 3?
I would really like to get out altogether. So I think that's the goal, to see if we could get out completely and rather than go to a lower tier. That's my goal anyway. Those are the conversations that I've been having during that executive session. So just as a reminder, I know I repeat myself, but there's very specific criteria how you get into the MARB. There's very specific criteria by law how you get out of the MARB. There was a criterium added in the spring in this last legislative session. We were meeting all that criteria until that additional criterion was added in the spring, which is no unsound financial practice. The challenge I have with that is very nebulous. It's not defined. What does that mean? Does it mean no audit repeat comments? Does that mean, what does that mean? It's not defined. So that's what we're talking about. I think we're on our way. I think if we go into Tier 3, then we're, I think if anything, we go to Tier 2 and then we get out. But we're in a really good position. We shouldn't be, I would say, come January, we shouldn't be in Tier 3 or Tier 4. So that's the story I'm trying to tell. But we have to wait till this latest audit comes out, fiscal year 24, to see what our audited financial numbers are, because there's specific fund balance metrics that we have to meet. We think we've met them, but they have to be audited and confirmed. I did just send something to the MARB on, the days blend, let's say Sunday, saying that the 2 consultants that are in the city, I'm putting them on pause for 4 to 5 weeks so we could focus on getting the audit done on time. Because if you think about it, we're not only in our audit, but we have Whittlesley and Protivity in as consultants kind of auditing us at the same time. So we feel like we're under 3 audits continually, and it's causing our regular audit to fall behind. So that's one of the benchmarks. We have to make sure we meet our audit on time. So we're focused on that. I think if we do that and we demonstrate that we've limited, you're never going to have no unsound financial practice. Every city's going to have repeat comments. We're doing everything we can to mitigate, and we've really strengthened our internal controls. That's a long answer to, we want to get out.
All set, Chair. All set, Councilman. No problem. Any other questions for Mayor Bohr? Thank you, Mayor. Oh, yeah,
Sorry,
absolutely.
I just want to add one thing. They've been here for 6 years. They don't want to let us go until they're really satisfied that we're in a good place. They worked really hard on a volunteer basis to strengthen our financial, to put us on solid ground. So I understand that they can't just let us go, right? They really want to see demonstrated evidence that we're ready to go on our own. We're in MARB for a reason, right? So we can only get out once we demonstrate why we shouldn't be in.
Thank you, Mayor Bohr. I appreciate that. Next order of business are our finance updates from Finance Director Michael Gormany.
All right. Excuse me. Good evening. So the finance updates, we submitted the August 2024 monthly financial report. There weren't a lot of changes between the month of July and August when I was last here. We did submit some updated numbers on tax collections for the city, the sewer fund, and Allentown Fire Department. One of the areas that we did see a change was we did get some additional state revenue. So that's a good sign for us. Related to the budget, so that did create a small surplus. As I mentioned at the last meeting, we continue to monitor these figures monthly, and we really get into where the city's financial position is really after the first quarter of the fiscal year in September. So the team is working on reconciling September with payroll and revenues and other areas. Again, these numbers are constantly changing as things come in and things go out. But we will continue to update the city council on a monthly basis. So I hope to have the September report very soon.
Thank you so much. Have you run into any big changes from this last report that we need to have any concerns about?
No, not at this time. Again, the biggest change was the additional state revenue that we've seen that came in a little higher than anticipated, which did create a little bit of a surplus. Again, we will continue to monitor the revenues as we compare year over year and where we think they're going to be ending at the end of the fiscal year.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Gormany regarding this update? Thank you so much for your update, Mr. Gormany. We really appreciate it. Okay, moving on. Our next order of business is Communication C from Chief Joseph Perno regarding animal shelter donations. I would like to bring this out for discussion by the committee. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, it's a motion to approve.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Motion to approve?
Motion.
I appreciate it. Second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Communication E from John Lewis, City Clerk regarding a request to approve a contract with Info Quick Solutions, Inc. Mr. Lewis, would you give us some insight on this, please? Oh, I'm
Good-
sorry. I would like to open this up for discussion. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Thank you so much. I apologize, Mr. Lewis.
I don't count for tonight, so.
Good evening, Council. John Lewis, City Clerk. And we have before us our contract with InfoQuick Solutions, who is our main vehicle to for all of our data that comes in, whether it be land records or information for the public that they can get from searchiqs.com for any land records that they have or any records that they would need from the city. We have to have a copy in the office, and also we have to have a copy online. So this is a way for us to actually do quite a few things. Recording software, departmental licenses, land records, plans, dog licensing renewals, marriages, online marriage renewals, vitals, fraud alert. It's kind of a catch-all for everything within our office. So kind of is the basis for a lot of what we do.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Mhm.
I had a couple questions regarding the contract.
Sure.
So with renewing this contract, there's going to be some additional services added onto this, correct?
Yes. The services, additional services.
So we're renewing the contract. Is it the same services that were provided before, or
Yeah,
are you
it's
adding anything on?
It's pretty much the same services that we had before. We just they're looking for price increases, given that it's been 10 years since there's been any change in the cost structure on their end. So,
Understand. Does anybody on the committee have any questions for Mr. Lewis? Councilman Locks?
How you doing, sir?
good evening. How are you?
Good to see you. Hey, it sounds like they're a captive supplier. Sounds like we can't pick up and go somewhere else, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, so-
if you look on Search IQS, quite a few of the municipalities within the state of Connecticut. I think there's 169. I don't know the exact number, but I'd say over 100 probably use IQS.
Do you know off the top of your head what the annual spend is on with them? I mean, what do
I
we-
can get that number for you. I don't have it off the top of my head.
No worries, no worries. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud. I mean, if it's $100,000 a year times 5 years, it's a
Right.
$500,000 contract, which is substantial.
Right.
The other part of it too is, at the end of that 5 years, it's going to be, I don't know, looks like a $25,000 to $30,000 increase. So I think it would be remiss if we didn't go back to them and say, hey, you get to lock in the business for 5 years, no 5% increase. This is all for them, and this whole thing about they have an increase in 10 years. I mean, that's nonsense. So I would challenge them on that. I would go back to them and say, hey guys, you're locking in the business for 5 years. It's like a guarantee. Forget the 5%. I mean, it's not fully executed yet, and I think we would be remiss if we didn't ask.
Well, included in this, I understand your point.
Yep.
And that's can be well taken, but included in this would be new equipment,
Yep.
new PCs,
Yep.
new printers,
Yep.
all these things that we would need. Also, we bring in about, what did you say, Lori? A couple $1 million probably in revenue included in our office, and IQS is a part of that. So we do generate revenue from it. So
No, I understand that part. So is there new equipment wrapped into this agreement?
that is correct. Yes.
Oh, it
Yes.
is. Okay.
As you can see on the schedule description of the services in the pages, the last page there. Desktop scanners,
Yep.
duplex printers,
Yep.
barcodes, Dymo label printers, cash drawers.
Yep. So if it were me, I would have all that broken out by cost, because if you're getting new equipment and they're wrapping price increases to pay for the equipment, you could be paying for that equipment forever. So that, it's, I would break it out between your services. They obviously perform a service, but you have equipment. I wouldn't consider this capital equipment. You'd probably want to get it broken out separately. Because what you don't want to do is continually pay for, like if your unit cost is built into that equipment, you could pay for that equipment for the next 10 years. I mean, it's just something to consider in terms of strategy with the supplier.
Okay.
That's all.
Understood.
That's all.
We'll look into that.
All right.
All set, Councilman?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on the committee? Councilman Vargo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Lewis, what would be required if we were to move away from IQS?
We would have to completely shut everything down and revamp the whole system. If you go online and you search IQS, that's the name of it, search IQS, you can pick pretty much any municipality in the state of Connecticut, and they all use the same service. If we pulled out, it would be a large impact, and it would interrupt services to the public, because anyone in here could actually go on this site and look up their own property. They can research it. You can download any information, and they do really good for us. If there's any issues, I can get on the phone and call them. They'll walk you through any issues you may have.
So I do
it would be an impact.
So I do this in the context of my employment, and I search West Haven land records. I click on a link. I go to search IQS. I pull up the property, and I see everything that's recorded against that property since the index started.
That's
and
correct.
then for a couple bucks, I could purchase.
That is correct.
So that's what they do on top of other services.
Absolutely.
So if we were to switch, there would be a cost, presumably, and a time delay to move everything from their system to a new system, training, possibly equipment, things like that.
Yeah. So also, let me just give you an idea. If someone comes in and wants to you buy a house, that law firm or title search company or whatever comes in, and they need to look up a property or they need to put it on the land records. Everything goes on that day. You can, any law firm can pull it up and see what's been put on the record that day. So it's, and it's on the record that minute it's put on. So it's convenient, and it takes less time. So I think it's very necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm all set.
You're very welcome. Mr. Lewis, how long would this contract renewal be for? Would it be longer than the 3 years? Or
It's a 5-year
5
contract.
years?
That's why I wasn't aware, but that's why we had to come here, because it will be longer than 3 years.
Right. Thank
Yes.
you. Anyone else on the committee have any questions? I would like to open up to the council for any questions. Councilman Callahan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So from my understanding of all the conversations, it has not gone out to bid to other companies.
It has not. As I said, this is a company we've used for over 10 years, and
Right.
most municipalities in the state of Connecticut use it. To change would, not saying we can't, but to change, it would probably be an interruption of services, and that's part of our revenue. Like I said, we take in about $4 million in our office a year,
Right.
of revenue. So, we can change, but
Don't fix what's not broken. But my question is more of maybe not, and maybe now or in the future, maybe to see what other avenues are as far as new technology, or maybe another, just to get 3 bids. I mean, it's usually 3 bids across the table, whether it's a roof or whatever the case may be. But it almost sounds like they have almost like a stranglehold on us as far as like our worries about interruption in services, which is very understandable. And it's nice to just have that reliability. It's just something to maybe think about in the future, that, maybe open up the door to look at what else is out there down the road. And, maybe another company could come in with better technology or faster turnaround or lesser prices or no interruption in services promises. So maybe just down the road, maybe look at other options. Just God forbid they went out of business, or, so
Yeah.
maybe just keep those options open.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, between this and other things, we've definitely gone out to bid for most things in office. This is one we did not, but I take your point, and we definitely will look into that in the future. Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other questions? Councilman Johnstone?
Thank you, Chairman. Hey, John, I'm going to throw you a softball. I think that will just kind of clarify everything. So what you're saying is, after I'm sitting here analyzing all the Q&A, because of the time frame, because of our circumstances, it's easier for us, it's the safer route to stay with them, then start to further and investigate down the road. Because if we go out to bid, we've been down this road before with the West Haven. That's an unknown road I don't like to go down very often. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we can absolutely explore other options. But if you look at what it entails,
Right, especially the possibility of the changeover, hidden fees, we don't know.
Right.
We don't know what the other side of the fence looks like, so we'd rather stay in our yard for right now. Fair enough.
Grass is greener, you know.
That's all I need to know. Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions for Mr. Lewis? Seeing there are none, all those approved?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Council.
Quietly. Our next communication from Mayor Durinder Boer regarding an issuance of a bond ordinance appropriating $1,694,000 for the costs associated with the planning, design, and rehabilitation of sewer pipes and manholes related to the Dawson Avenue area, Contract 5. I would like to bring this out for discussion.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Mayor Boer, would you like to give us a little insight on this, please?
It's really exactly what it states. It's for the rehabilitation of the sewer pipes, manholes related to Dawson area Avenue, Contract 5.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mayor Boer. Does anybody on the committee have any questions? I would like to open it up to the council. Any questions? Chairman, I would like to move to request a public hearing. I would have to rescind. Yeah. I'd like to rescind our motion and our second, please.
Withdrawn.
Withdrawn.
Thank you. Councilman, I'd like to request a public hearing for Monday, October 28th at 6:50 p.m.
Madam Clerk, is that available?
Sure is.
Okay, so 10:28 at 6:50 public hearing.
6:55?
We have another.
Oh, we do?
6:50.
Thank you very much. Communication G from Michael Gormany, Director of Finance, regarding the we had to fix this. From Michael Gormany, Director of Finance, regarding the transfer of funds for fiscal year 2023 to 2024 in the amount of $990,000 from contract number 101-21054-54390 General Fund to account number 240-480-48-48100 Sewer Operating Revenue. Would like to open this up for discussion. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Gormany, could you come up and just discuss this transfer, please, for us?
All right, good evening again. What you have before you is the year-end transfers, which are this communication and next one. As you know, when the city budgets, we budget three major funds: the Allentown Fire Department, the Sewer Fund, and the City General Fund. The first communication that you have before you is related to our Sewer Fund. Now, these are all pre-audit numbers. I think the mayor mentioned that we're going through the audit process, so these are being audited. But as we close our fiscal year 24 books, in regards to the sewer fund, we did see that fund was running a deficit of 990,000. It was slightly a little less, but 990,000 rounded. So, in looking at how the operating fund was doing for fiscal year 23-24, we looked at transferring funds from the city's operating general fund account to the sewer account. Some of the overruns in fiscal year 23-24 were primarily for equipment, overtime, and we did see some utility expenses and heating oil that did overrun their budget. But unfortunately, with the sewer fund, unlike the general fund, which I'll talk about in the next communication, we didn't have enough savings in other areas to cover those overruns. So again, because we're looking at a surplus in the general fund, we did look at transferring 990,000 from the general fund to the sewer fund to cover those overruns.
Thank you, Mr. Gormany. Does anybody on the committee have any questions? Councilman Vargo, or should I say Chairman Vargo?
Whatever you want. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Gormley, would you say that this deficit in the sewer fund was expense driven, not income driven?
This was certainly expense driven. I know on the cover memo it was, I was trying to save some space on the cover memo, but on that cover memo you'll see that they certainly exceeded the expense side of the budget. We were slightly short on the revenue by less than 100,000 on the cover memo, but it was definitely expense driven.
So I know it's a little early. It's only mid October, but does this leave you with any concern for the current fiscal year?
So sewer fund is something that we're definitely monitoring with the WPCA. Finance has actually been meeting since last month, September. We've set up dedicated times to go over finances with them because they do have a new person who's handling some of their invoices and purchase orders and things like that. We've given training, things like that. So it's something that we're definitely monitoring for this fiscal year.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome. Anyone else on the committee have any questions? I would like to open it up to the council. Anyone on the council? Councilwoman Coletti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Gormley, you may not know the specifics of this, but you mentioned some of the overruns were due to heating expenses. There was some confusion about whether that heating line item pertained truly to heating or it was mainly the trucking that a member of the public, Mr. Hebert, actually also brought up during public comment. Can you speak to that at all?
I can certainly look into that line item. Again, that was one of the major overruns, and I can certainly provide the council with the exact answer for that. I do know part of it was gas and oil. I can look into the other areas that made up that line item.
Okay, I just if it's a $900,000 overrun, I think we should just be clear what expense that actually pertained to as a budget line item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor
No,
Board.
that's okay. So I just want to add to the carting of the cake, which has been brought up. So we cart to Naugatuck, but when there's issues with Naugatuck, we have to cart out of state very often. So, for example, when there was the flooding and the storm, if they're shut down, we have to find alternative. And some of it was the transportation costs. A major driver of the expense, though, is the overtime, because we're short because of our challenge with finding the right operators and the right mechanics that are required by license. So we're bringing them in on the third shift.
And I'm sorry, just to add on to that, I just looked it up, and a lot of that also is the disposal cost that the mayor was just talking about as well, that went into that line item as well.
The trucking is the same
Yep.
thing. Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other questions? Seeing there are no more questions, all those approved?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Second.
I just.
So sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Gormany. I appreciate it. But we're going to go over the next one. Okay. Communication H from Michael Gormany, Director of Finance. Approval of various transfers to reconcile budget regarding transfer of funds for fiscal year 2023 to 2024 in the aggregate amount of $6,193,592 as set forth on the attached Exhibit A hereto and incorporated by reference. Mr. Gormany? Oh, I'm sorry. I would like to open this up for discussion. May I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Thank you. Mr. Gormany?
All right, thank you. So what you have before you are the general fund transfers related to just various line items for the fiscal year. So again, this is for fiscal year 23-24, which again started in July of 23, which was the budget prepared under Mayor Rossi, and then we administered it halfway through the year, the second half of the fiscal year. So what you have before you are just various line items that were over budget for the fiscal year. And what you'll notice is a majority of these line items are related to overtime, which was really due to staffing. Again, as we know, the work has to get done, and we did have vacancies within the city that had to be filled through overtime. So what you have before you are different line items, starting with the transfers out, and not going through all the line items, but we did list some of the larger line items towards the top of the transfer, which was the sewer account, which we just talked about being one of the largest transfers out of the general fund. And then again, the next couple are overtime. But one area that we did transfer funds out of, which was mentioned throughout the last couple of meetings, was workers' comp, because as you know, through the last few audits, we have been looking at paying down the city's workers' comp liability, which has going on for the last couple of years. That was also in our 5-year plan. I know the last couple of monthly reports that we gave for 23-24, we said up to $1 million, depending on how the year ended. We ended up transferring $673,000, a little bit over $673,000 into that workers' comp fund as a additional transfer from the general fund. Again, what we also seen in fiscal year 23-24 was we did have to use temporary staffing in a couple of other areas. So as an example, in the comptroller's office, we did see some overruns in our financial services line, which was really due to temporary staffing, ADP payroll support, and things like that. Again, in our ERS, we did have staffing shortages as well, which was an overrun. So again, we did have various line items that went over budget, but then we also had savings on the other areas. And unallocated contingency, which is really what it sounds like. It's a contingency budget in case there's certain overruns. We did have some salary savings from other departments and some other expenditure savings that were able to cover these negative line items for the fiscal year. So again, what I also want to mention is it is almost 6.2 million. That is not indicative of where the department actually landed. So there are other areas of savings that may have offset some of these negatives as well that may not have been captured. We just balanced out the transfer itself. So again, that's kind of what we want to do, is be transparent. We were looking at making sure we satisfied all the code and charter requirements on having a year-end transfer. Again, we are going through the audit process. Based on myself and the finance team, we do not anticipate a lot of changes within what we see here. During an audit, there's always changes here and there, maybe based on what the auditors see or what we see. but we're not expecting any major shifts in these numbers. So.
Great, thank you. That's what I was concerned about. Does anyone on the committee have any questions? Councilman Vargo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a general overall question, then I have one that's specific, but to handle my overall question, there's a couple of big numbers here. And I'm going to just put aside payroll, overtime, payroll, whatever. I understand that it's being offset by, not hiring and things like that. So I'm going to eliminate those. But there are a couple of numbers here that are six figures. And you and I have talked about this before, and I know I'm going to be a broken record, but my concern is that if this is how we're tracking, we had built-in savings in this budget, 23-24,
yes,
that we presumably will not have in the current budget that we're in, and we likely will not have in the next budget that the mayor gives us probably 5 short months from now. Sorry. I'm assuming that your office is monitoring these, and that when it comes time for the next budget, we're looking at what we could do with the expenses and what we might have to do with revenue to make sure that we're not in a similar position, because we may not have that built-in cushion.
Correct. So some of the areas that we looked at, I think I mentioned, were munis training with department heads. We are continuing that. We gave an overview of training to look at monitoring their budget and purchase order training, things like that. We're looking at doing another one. Unfortunately, the person in my office was out the last couple of weeks. But she has today continued to contact the department so we can give individual one-on-one training. You are absolutely correct. There are going to be some savings that may not materialize like they did in fiscal year 23-24. So it's important that we do monitor that budget, monitor department's budget and expenditures, especially when it comes to personnel or overtime or just any unnecessary things that are unpredictable. Like one of the areas here that we looked at that came in on budget this year, thank goodness, was like liability insurance, because that's dictated by the market. There are certain things that we don't have control over that we need to monitor as the year goes on. But yes, we're working on strategies to monitor the city budget and involving the departments themselves. So.
Thank you. My specific question, page 3 of Exhibit A. The top line item, it says city number 210. Do you see that?
I'm sorry, mine may not be in the same order, but I will look for it for you. Okay, yep, the comptroller's office.
Yeah, that's not the 990 that we just approved in committee, correct?
That is the 990.
So is it appropriate to put it into this transfer as well?
Yeah. No. It is coming out the general fund as an additional expenditure within a line item. So yes, it is. Because it's being covered by other areas as well within this line item. So it's like the transfer before the transfer. If that makes sense.
I'm going to be honest, it didn't. Because this is showing a deficit in that line item by 990.
Let me see. No, I got it. So I think what we can do is possibly amend the amount, if possible, by the 990, since it was already done in the first transfer. I think, correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's why I think I'm going. Is that if we move the 990 from communication, what are we on, G, right? If we put it in here, this shows it's essentially a new. I'm not gonna say it's a new line item, but it's a new entry because the original budget was $0. So is what this says that the original budget was $0 and now we're reducing.
Now you're expensing 990.
We're expensing
from that,
990
from that budget, correct?
Okay. is there a corresponding transfer?
That's all the positive transfers. So that negative transfer in the 6.1 million is offset by all the positive numbers, which includes that 990. Because there was a zero budget there.
Okay.
Because it wasn't essentially planned to transfer from the operating account in the general fund to the sewer account.
Okay. I guess my question, I don't know if it's yours to answer, perhaps Attorney Dorsey. If we approve 6,193,592, are we approving a double transfer of 990?
No.
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 If you don't mind, unless your answer is just no.
No.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions for Mr. Gormany? Seeing there are none, all those approved?
Aye.
Second.
Approved. Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you so much, Mr. Gormley. I appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Our next communication is Communication B from the September 23, 2024 agenda from Mayor Durnder Boer regarding the Department of Economic and Community Development Urban Act grant of $2 million. I would like to open this up for discussion.
Motion.
Second?
Approved.
Thank you. Mayor Boer.
Sure. So this is the $2 million that, as you may recall, when I was a state representative, that I had secured for West Haven. It was already signed off by the Rossi administration. They would like a new contract executed with my signature on it. So this is a grant that we got in December 2021. And it is, as you may recall, it was for the Masonic, the Historic Society's in there. It was the steeple, but we had to, back that out of there. So this is for a downtown investment. And there's been a number of conversations with the state actually about the 1.75 for the building to make it a little bit more of a general purpose rather than just an art center, which sounds great. But we don't have any other municipal building besides City Hall, really, like other municipalities do. So more of a multi-purpose general usage for the building. So that's what we will be targeting now.
That sounds very exciting. Does anybody have any questions on the committee regarding this for Mayor Boer? Would like to open it up to the council. Anyone on the council? Seeing there are no questions for Mayor Boer, all those approved?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Time is now 8:44, and your committee on finance is now closed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Just a point of housekeeping reminder that the motions are motions to approve the communication to go out to the full council, and the vote is to approve those. Next up is legislative matters. Acting Chairwoman Coletti.
Thank you, Chairman Vargo. Big shoes to fill. The time is now at 8:45, and your Committee on Legislative Matters is now in session. Present are Councilman Locks, Councilman Vargo, Councilman Johnstone, myself acting as chair. Absent is Councilwoman Tucker. We have before us today Communication H. From August 26, 2024 agenda from Mayor Durnder Boer regarding an amendment to Ordinance Blight Prevention 129-8, penalties for offenses and enforcement. As previously discussed, the only thing that we have to do today within legislative matters is to request a public hearing for October 28th at 6:55 p.m.
October 28th, 6:55. Does that conclude?
Yes. And that concludes your committee on legislative matters at 8:46.
Thank you. Moving on to Public Lands, Councilman Donovan.
Thank you, Chairman.
Chairman Donovan.
The time is 8:46, and your Committee on Public Lands is now in session. Member present is Councilman Locks, Councilwoman Callahan, Councilwoman Coletti, Councilman Johnstone, and myself acting as chair. We have before us Communication B from Mayor Durandabora regarding the proposal of the Savin Rock Conference Center property. I'd like to make a motion to bring this out for discussion.
Motion.
I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. And I believe we have a couple gentlemen from the business, if you would not. You too? Go ahead.
Do it up?
Sure,
Okay.
do it up.
All right. So first of all, welcome, Peter and John.
Thank you.
If you can sit through our council meeting, we know you're interested in West Haven. So I'm just going to give a little background, and then I know that they're really here just to show their commitment and their interest in West Haven, and not really to answer any specific questions because that's what we will do through P&Z, and you don't have the lease in front of you yet. So let me just give a little background for those that are new or listening. 6 Rock Street, formerly known as the Savin Rock Conference Center, is a building that the city has owned for a number of years. It was closed down in 2017 and fell in disarray. As we know, it's quite an eyesore sitting down there. There was a project proposal through the prior administration that did not come to fruition. So what I decided to do was go back out to bid, right? We needed to make a decision to close that chapter and open a new one. But before we went back out to bid, I wanted to make sure we did a few due diligence steps this time. So I had ordered the title search. We took a review of the survey. I completed environmental assessment, which hadn't been done in the past. I didn't suspect there was any environmental pitfalls, but we wanted to make sure prior to even going to bid so that it didn't come back to us because we own the property. Once all of that came back, that took a couple of months. We went out to bid, requiring a mandatory walkthrough as well. And I put together a panel of folks that included our economic development director, our project manager, our assistant planner, our legal team, myself. That was it, right? So we put together a panel and we came up with a series of standard questions that we would ask of any bidder so that we were consistent and we wanted to make sure we were fair. Once we had the responses to those questions, then we came back, recommended who we wanted to award this to. So some of the things we looked at in that panel discussion was what is your experience with your proposed project? What is the financial capacity? Something that was important to me, what is your commitment to jobs for West Haven residents? Because we know this is an opportunity. What is the footprint? There's very specific questions to make sure that the project would be the right fit. And then we talked about finances when we brought them back. So through that series of questions, the panel chose RTR Group. For the first time, I would like to publicly welcome you to West Haven and thank you for your interest. We're very excited to see this project move forward. I think people are anxious to see that building invested in. Even though it's a city-owned building, we will be partnering with you. But I know you've committed, and you did answer all those questions during the proposal, and I appreciate that. Your commitment, and you have a lot of experience in doing this in other cities, and you have demonstrated experience, which was important to us because we don't want to award a bid and have a project linger, right? We want to know up front. So we've put together a very aggressive schedule to have this move through. So we have a timeline, and in speaking with our corporation counsel who can speak to the process and really looking at the state statutes, what we decided to do was this first step is to ask you, the council, to refer this to P&Z for an advisory report. So that's not an approval from P&Z. We're not at that point yet. This is a submission that's required by 8-24 in the Connecticut state statute that really looks at the feasibility and the opinion of the project. So if this is sent to P&Z at their next meeting, they do that, they evaluate it, and they will send you their report of what, what they advise, whether to move forward or not. And the reason I wanted to do it a different methodical way is because I think with the last project, the site plan and the lease, everything got very muddied, right? P&Z's role is to look at the project, how it fits, are any variances needed, what is the footprint, et cetera. And the lease is the finances. And I think because it was rushed, last time it was all kind of, folks would come to the P&Z meeting to talk about the lease. That's not, we want to make sure everybody stays in their lane and everybody focuses on what they've been appointed or elected to do. So that's why referral to P&Z first, the lease will come next, not both at the same time. So we'll be working on that on a parallel track. I think this is a great project for West Haven. I'm excited to see, what this building can be. It's, it needs to be polished. It's a jewel on our coastline that really needs to be polished. It was a restaurant in its heyday that was very successful at the time. It was a conference center, and in its heyday was very successful at the time. There was weddings, there was showers. Yale used it for conferences, but that time had passed. And I think these are the right folks to bring it back to life. And I think that I will pause and see if you have anything to add, to offer, and then I could speak a little bit more.
Good evening, Council. How are you? I'm Peter Monona from the Spotted Horse Restaurant in Shelton and Westport. We also have a restaurant in Southport known as the Grey Goose. John here is, I'll let him speak to his background and where he came from, but the two of us together with our partner Yanni, we have over 35 years of experience in the business. Myself starting off as a dishwasher in Westport, Connecticut at the age of 12 for a basketball coach, actually. $5 an hour cash was a good deal. What the mayor just said about the history of the building, how it was once a successful restaurant, once a successful convention center, that's our vision as well, is to combine those two, is to provide a American coastal style restaurant, seafood, American cuisine, burgers, with event space, big enough that we can accommodate weddings, small groups, and actually taking the footprint that's there, leaving it, but rehabbing the building and creating a rooftop venue overlooking Long Island Sound. So we think it's a winner. I think this is a great town. The more I get to know it, the more I spend time here. I'm really looking forward to the opportunity. I think it could be a great success. Speaking to the employment aspect of it, where we work now in Shelton and Westport, we always look locally to do our hiring. We sponsor a job fair. We work with the high schools. We work with culinary schools. Norwalk Community is a big one. Right here in New Haven, you have a culinary program as well with, I believe it's Gateway Community. So we've hired some people from there as well. We do internship programs. We sponsor youth sports. Our partner Yanni is big with football. We sponsor baseball, soccer. We really like to get involved with the community and help and give back, and we look forward to a good relationship with y'all.
Thank you.
Pretty much knocked out of the park everything I wanted to say. My name is John Lungy. I'm also one of the partners of RTR, and yeah, we're looking so forward to coming here. As Pete said, we're just spending a lot of time here, just getting used to it. And I'm going to be there majority of the time, so I'm even looking at moving my family up here to this town to live. So we're putting everything we have into this project, and we're really excited about it.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for considering coming here. Sure. Anybody on the committee have any questions? Again, we can't talk about leases. We can't talk about any of that. So, Councilman Johnston.
Thank you, Chairman. Gentlemen, welcome, and congratulations for making it this far.
Thank you very much.
So I'm just going to scratch the surface on a positive note of advice from someone who personally lived, and there's other council members up here who lived through that muddy situation in the past. Be prepared for some tough questions, not from us, but from just the community. Land trust, that was a big one. Surrounding neighbors, parking, traffic, detailed sculptures if you can have it. As much detail at the end of the ball game. Thank you for coming to West Haven and investing. But please, please be prepared, because some of us just do not want to relive through that. And that's not to pre-accuse you of anything. We just know with the group we've been working with now, when the transparency is the first notch on the list, it's just so much easier. And in honor of Halloween, I do not personally want to relive that horror film. But please and thank you. I wish you luck going forward.
I would like to say we have taken some steps. We do know about NEBCO and how that went. And we've actually, one of our partners is a local here, West Haven guy, Chris Marone. He's also a builder, developer. So he's been very busy the last couple of months doing his due diligence, finding out as much as he can about what happened in the past, how to avoid those, pitfalls. So we're hoping to have it go as smoothly as possible. And like you said, avoid some of the horrors in the past and, and be upfront and honest with everyone about what our plans are and what our intentions are and what we can and can't do. So
I appreciate that. Thank you, Chairman.
Anybody else on the committee? Yes, Councilwoman Coletti.
Thank you, Chairman. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
I know everyone here and everyone in the public certainly is wishing you the best. To Councilman Johnstone's point slightly, I would say cautiously optimistic and know that you have an incredible steward in our mayor who's already thought through some lessons learned from the past, which is obvious by going to planning and zoning first for their opinion according to state statute. So overall, typically when a private developer partners with the city, there's a lot of caution in that, but just know that knowing that this will take proper steps, a majority of the public is very much behind a concept, especially like this. I think the last proposal kind of started out with some manufacturing components or sort of some other things that we're not starting out with now. So cautious optimism, but sunny skies and appropriate smooth sailing toward a successful project for you guys.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else on the committee? Councilwoman Callahan.
Hello, thank you. Welcome to West Haven. We're very excited, and just to reiterate with what everybody else said, absolutely our mayor, who has done such great due diligence in this, we all open you with open arms, and once you get past those floodgates, you get like 1,000 support from Westies, no matter what, for sure. I just wanted to ask, I know we can't really ask about details, but you mentioned Chris Marone. Is that who you are considering as the builder for the building?
He's
And is
actually a partner as well.
Oh, okay.
In our endeavor. So yes, so Chris would be overseeing the project as far as the builder construction.
Is he also working on the other location on Beach Street?
I believe so. Yes, another concept that he's involved with. Yeah.
Okay, good. I was just curious. I heard
Yeah.
you say the name, and I knew I heard it before, and so that's even more support. So welcome, and we look forward to what's to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the committee? I'm going to open it up to the council. Chairman Fargo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, welcome. I just wanted to thank you for your interest in West Haven. I've looked in detail on your RFP submission. I'm excited about the concept. You sound like a great potential community partner, which is something that I think a lot of us really look for. West Haven's a very close-knit community, and we're excited to have new partners to help with youth sports and other events. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck through planning and zoning, and I look forward to that positive report from them and to see you back here with presumably a more detailed presentation on what your vision is and the contract terms. And I want to thank and applaud the mayor. I appreciate the step-by-step approach that we're taking here. I know that it may seem like we're taking a little bit longer, but if we do our due diligence now and we do it the right way, then it alleviates any potential issues that we might have going forward. And the fact that you're not looking potentially not looking for any variances. You're going to use the building footprint. I think that solves a lot of problems, and I truly appreciate the process that's being executed with this project. So I just want to commend and thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? Yes, Councilwoman Heffernan.
Hi. I love your renderings. On your website, are you posting anything about this? Do you have anything like that you've let people know that you're interested in the building? I mean, I don't know how hush-hush. It's really been, you know, pretty low-key.
So we've been trying to keep it as hush as possible, but we do have an excellent video, which I'd be happy to share with you guys, sort of what it could look like, its rendition. We also do have some drawings, blueprints done already. We've met with structural engineers, architects, so we have the ball rolling as fast as we can without knowing for sure
Right.
if it's.
You've invested a lot. It's really
We've
thank you so
invested
much.
significant amount of time and energy into it already. So, but the video is great. It's actually on YouTube, so it's
Really?
public.
Under RTR? Or-
If you look
or the
up on
Kelsey?
YouTube, Kelsey at Savin Rock, you should find it.
Well, I'll be your neighbor. I'll be happier.
Oh,
Then.
thank you. We'll be good neighbors. I
Thank you.
promise.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Anybody else from the council? Any questions? Oh, Councilwoman Garthwaite?
Hi, welcome. I'm really excited for this. There's been a lot of chatter. First of all, I want to say I agree with everything that Councilman Fargo has said, and I think that, you know, I've heard from other neighbors on Kelsey. They're excited for you guys, and I love the name, the Kelsey. They're very excited about that too. And my biggest excitement is that Chris Marone is going to be working with you guys because he's already put out 2 amazing projects. Well, finishing up another project on Beach Street. So
Yeah, Chris is tremendous.
He really
So,
is. Yeah.
Yanni, we've been friends since kindergarten, believe it or not, the 3 of us. So Yanni, or John, as some people call him, him and Chris have been friends a long time. So it was Chris Marone who let us know that the building would be going out to bid.
Oh, interesting. Okay, great. All right, well, I'm going to share your video on my Facebook page.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other council? Anybody else? Mayor? Go right
I want to
ahead.
add, I don't know if you go on Facebook, but once in a while I'll do a video. And
I saw that.
Oh, you did? Okay. Wasn't my prettiest, but that's okay.
The
Because I liked
the comments were spectacular. too.
Yeah.
I like to share as much as I can, you know, because I think communication is key, and we're really big on that. But if the reaction is any indication, you know, you're being welcomed with open arms. I mean, there is significantly overwhelming positive. I think people are hungry for a project like this, and you know, not only will it bring an investment and revenue, because we will get to the lease. Let's not forget, this is a revenue driver. It's not just going to upgrade a building on our shore. It's not going to be a great establishment and a business with jobs. It's going to be a revenue driver too. So we're really excited about the feedback. You know, to your point about Chris, I think the great thing about partnering with somebody local who's done a project is he's already built trust. Everything he committed to do, he has done. So he has trust amongst elected officials, but also the public, blended with, you know, you bringing a new, fresh perspective is going to be a great partnership, and then a partnership with the city. So more approvals to come. And just so everybody knows, because there's questions about obstacles and cautious optimism, we've done what we can to plug any potential loopholes, right? So we are working on so that this we mitigate any opportunity for loopholes. That's what we have been working to do, and we will continue to work to do that for you. So thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just to end it, again, welcome. I look forward to this. You'll be seeing a lot of me. I will be going to the planning and zoning meeting as well, and giving them the evil eye in case they decide.
Okay.
Thank you.
But then I look forward to your presentation back to us so we can move this forward in a positive manner. So again, thank you very much for showing up. With that, I need Councilwoman Coletti to withdraw her second,
I withdraw my second.
and Councilman Johnstone.
I withdraw my first.
All right. With that being said, I need a motion to refer the plan to lease and develop city-owned property located at 6 Rock Street, also known as the Savin Rock Conference Center, submitted by RTF Hospitality Group LLC to the Planning and Zoning Commission for its consideration and written report back to the City Council pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 8-24. Have a motion for that?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion within the committee with that? Anybody? Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any,
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
We also have before us, Chairman, Communication D from the September 9th, 2024 agenda from Mayor Dorinda Boer regarding the sale of city-owned property at 69 Westfield Street. I'd like to get a motion to approve.
Motion.
Need a second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, the time is now 9:07, and your Committee on Public Lands is now closed.
Thank you, Chairman Donovan. Up next is Streets and Squares, and turning it back over to you, Chairman Donovan.
Okay, thank you very much. We have before us, sorry. Time is 9:07. The Committee on the Streets and Squares is now in session. Members present are Councilwoman Akbarali, Councilwoman Callahan, Councilman Johnstone, Councilman Vargo, I guess I can include you, and myself acting as chair. We have before us Communication D from Robert Sandella, Acting Commissioner of Public Works, requesting approval to install additional lighting in front of 39 Harold Street. I'd like to make a motion to approve this.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion on it? Yes.
So my one question is, are they putting in a whole new pole, or are they just installing a light that is on a pole that's already existing?
I believe they're installing a light, but I'm not 100% sure. Mayor, do you know more about that?
I don't know that answer. I just know they need more lighting. Technically, how they're doing it, I don't know.
Thank you.
Councilman Johnstone?
I believe, if I remember correctly, it doesn't matter if it's one or the other. So the UI covers the materials, because we had a similar situation at the library on Benham Hill Road. And then once it's installed, they will come back and do the appropriate adjustments so it's not facing in anybody's windows or whatever the case may be and disturb, but it's solely for the safety purpose. But I believe, if I recall, the poles and whatever, that's on them. We just get billed for the monthly usage of it.
With that? Yeah.
Just out of committee. It refers to light pole number 3926.
So there is
an
a pole there,
existing
right?
pole
That's
there.
what I was looking for. So there is a pole there already.
Very good, thank you.
Should have just asked the councilman.
I was thinking my.
in his district. Although he could have spoke up, then I think the mic. All right. Any other questions on that? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Time is now 9:10. Your Committee on Streets and Squares is now closed.
Thank you, Chairman Donovan. The time is now 9:10, and Council as a whole is reconvening. Next up is unfinished business. Update regarding Kerrigan Boiler and update regarding Lake Street project. Mayor, do you have anything to update us?
You had the Kerrigan update, right?
Yeah, he just did.
Okay,
So
all
we're
right.
good.
Yep, so Lake Street, the consultant has been performing field surveys and determining catchment areas to develop hydraulic model to determine the flows and pipe size for the outfall. Survey expected to be done by the end of this week. A preliminary meeting was held with DEEP to determine permitting requirements and the consultant is working on preparing the permit applications to send to DEEP. So remember that CDM Smith, they're working on that. For its review to determine eligibility for, which is a quick process permit, which is unusual. I don't think it's going to be eligible, but we're going to try. And then the final permit will be submitted once the design is done, which is expected by the end of December or January. The expected overall project should be completed December 2025 if they continue to let us work through the weather. But we need to have a public meeting, and that public meeting will probably occur in November. Oh, I'm thinking about doing the public meeting through flood and erosion meeting commission rather than just having going to a flood and erosion regularly scheduled meeting and have that put on the public agenda there.
So that's the lower section of Mike. Thank you. That's the lower section of Lake. So January 1st or December 31st, 2025, that whole section is scheduled to be completed. So that means the upper section will be sometimes in 26, 27 probably.
Well, so remember, it's over $3 million, the project, and we have 1.4, I believe. So we have to, as they get more involved in the design, we'll get a better idea of what we need for the next phase, and then we have to start asking for the funding. So we're going to ask the state for bonding funding because the state originally committed to us to give us the full amount once we got started in this project. There's different people at the state now.
Right,
Hopefully
gotcha.
they remember that. But if not, then we'll have to bond for it because we have to complete the project. It's just a matter of what does the rest of that project look like? How much does it cost, and where do we get the money from?
Thank you.
Okay, is that it, Mayor?
Yes, that is it.
Great, thank you. Moving on to committee reports, would the clerk please read communication A into the record for tax refunds?
Communication A from the tax collector regarding overpayment refunds for September 2024, which will be filed with tonight's minutes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Chairwoman Acquarelli.
Thank you, Chairman. Communication C, to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom is referred the matter of the animal shelter donations, reports that the committee met on the 15th day of October 2024 to consider said matter. It is in the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved. The West Haven Police Department has received the following donations totaling $525. The animal shelter per Connecticut Statute 7-148C 3 A and B and General Order 98-04. We are forwarding these donations for approval. The City Council approves the following motion at a regular meeting held on October 15th, 2024. Resolved. The City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves the animal shelter donations to be deposited into the animal shelter donations account number 101-00000-28285. Marianne Luxzak, $75. Kenneth W. Howland, $25. Estelle Weber, $25. Bet Divine, $20. Michaela H. Apatrius, $25. Evelyn D. Heffernan, $75. Keith S. Lark, $25. Carl Fleming, $10. Angela Russo, $100. Maureen F. Vetz, $25. Jillian Eagles Wykowski, $100. Michelle J. Dalton, $20, with a total of $525. And I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion regarding animal shelter donations. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Still have 7 here, right? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you, Chairman. Communication E, to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter regarding a request to approve a contract with Info Quick Solutions, Inc. Reports that the committee met on the 15th day of October 2024 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Be it resolved that the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves and authorizes the City of West Haven to execute the records management and services contract presented to the City Council with Info Quick Solutions, Inc. for a term effective to February 29, 2024 through February 28, 2029. Be it further resolved, Dorinda Borer, as mayor of the City of West Haven, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents related to the resolution on behalf of the City of West Haven, and to do and perform all acts and things which she deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all agreements and documents contemplated by such documents. The undersigned further certifies that Dorinda K. Borer now holds the office of mayor and that she has held the office since December 3rd of 2023, and that said term will continue December 7th, 2025. And I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion regarding a request to approve a contract with Info Quick Solutions, Inc. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you, Chairman. Communication G, to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven. Your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of regarding transfers of funds for fiscal year 2023 to 2024.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry.
You need to do a first read of this. Of communication.
Oh, I'm sorry. So read the.
Communication F,
Yep.
the first read for the bonding.
Do you have to read the whole thing?
Sure. Just find where I am. I'm sorry. I wrote it down too. Okay. Do you want me to start over? Okay. Communication G, to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven. I'm sorry.
Councilwoman. F.
Communication F, we are having a public hearing for on October 28th at 6:50 p.m. on Monday.
And you need to do the first read of the blurb in front.
Yep. From Mayor Dorinda Borer regarding the issuance of the bond ordinance appropriating $1,694 for the costs associated with the planning, design, and rehabilitation of sewer pipes and manholes related to the Dawson Avenue Area Contract 5. Is that good? Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, no problem. Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on to Communication G, to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of regarding transfers of funds for fiscal year 2023 to 2024 in the amount of $990,000 from account number 101210554-54390 General Fund to account number 240-480-48-48100 Sewer Operating Fund. Reports that the committee met on the 15th day of October 2024 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, that the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves the transfer of funds from account number 101-21054-54390 General Fund account to account number 240-480-48-48100 Sewer Operating Revenue, and the amount of $990,000 to balance the fiscal year 2024 sewer fund. And I so move.
Thank you. I'm not going to repeat all that, but I have a motion regarding a matter of a fund transfer of $990,000 from the general fund to the sewer operating fund. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you, Chairman. Communication H, to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven. Your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of regarding approval of various transfers to reconcile budget for fiscal year 2023 to 2024 and the aggregate amount of $6,193,592 as set forth on the attached Exhibit A hereto and incorporated by reference. Reports that the committee met on the 15th day of October 2024 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, that the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves and transfers the funds from various line items within the general fund of fiscal year 2024 in the aggregate amount of $6,193,592 as set forth in Exhibit A, attached hereto and made part of by reference. And I so move.
Thank you. You're not going to read all of Exhibit A, right?
I am not.
Okay. Yeah, please do. I have a motion regarding various transfers to reconcile the budget for fiscal year 2023 to 2024 in the aggregate amount of $6,193,592 as set forth in Exhibit A attached to the resolution and incorporated by reference. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you, Chairman. Communication B from the September 23rd, 2024 agenda. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom is referred the matter of a resolution regarding the Department of Economic and Community Development, any and all documents which it deems necessary and appropriate for an Urban Act grant of $2 million for downtown cultural improvement projects. Reports that the committee met on the 15th day of October 2024 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, that the City of West Haven may enter into, with and deliver to the Department of Economic and Community Development any and all documents which it deems necessary and appropriate for an Urban Act grant of $2 million for downtown cultural improvement projects. Further resolved, that Dorinda Borer, as mayor of the City of West Haven, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the City of West Haven, and to do and perform all acts and things which she deems to be necessary for appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all agreements and documents contemplated by such documents. Be it further resolved that Dorinda Borer, as mayor of the City of West Haven, is authorized and directed to execute all and deliver any and all documents related to the resolution on behalf of the City of West Haven, and to do and perform all acts and things which she deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all agreements and documents. And I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion regarding a matter of a Department of Economic and Community Development Urban Act grant in the amount of $2 million. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Is that all?
Yes, that is it. Thank you so much, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Next up is Legislative Matters. Acting Chairwoman Coletti.
Thank you, Chairman. Your legislative I'm sorry, your committee.
It's not too late.
You're not filling those big shoes.
I know. I think you're too big for me, Chris. Your Committee on Legislative Matters reports that has met on the 15th day of October 2024. And scheduled regarding Communication H from the August 26, 2024 agenda from Mayor Dorinda Borer regarding an amendment, Ordinance Blight Prevention 129-8, penalties for offenses and enforcement. We scheduled a public hearing for October 28th at 6:55 p.m. And in accordance with that, I'd like to perform a first reading.
Thank you.
Thank you. An amendment to Chapter 129, Section 129-8 of the Code of the City of West Haven to adopt and incorporate changes to 129-8, parentheses 3, 129-8, parentheses B, and 129-8, parentheses B, parentheses E, to permit the maximum civil penalties allowed by statute, to determine how a third or more violations are determined, and to allow an officer of the Health Department to also enforce blight ordinances. Draft of the proposed amendment, Chapter 129, Blight Prevention, Section 129-8, Penalties for Offenses and Enforcement. Amended 10/22/2012, Penalties. 1. Each violation of this chapter shall be considered a separate offense. 2. Each day any violation continues shall constitute a separate offense. 3. Each separate offense under this chapter shall be punishable by a civil penalty as follows. A. Residential and commercial, 6 or fewer units. Subsection occupied, $150 per day. Vacant, $250 per day. Third or subsequent violation, $1,000 per day. B, residential 7 to 39 units, 10 cents per square foot. C, residential 40 plus units, 12 cents per square foot. D, commercial, 10 cents per square foot. B, enforcement. 1. Upon discovery of a violation of this chapter, the enforcement officer shall cause to be given to the owner and occupant of the property written notice of the violation and provide a reasonable opportunity for the owner and occupant to remediate the blighted conditions prior to any enforcement action being taken, except that an enforcement officer may take immediate enforcement action in the case of a violation at a property that is the third or more such blight violation as such property during a 12-month period. For the sole purpose of determining a violation is the third or more such violation at such property during the 12-month period. Quote, violation means a violation of any municipal blight regulation for which the municipality has issued a notice of violation, and 1, in determination of such enforcement officer, the conditions creating such violation were previously cured, or 2, 120 days have passed from the notice of violation and the conditions creating such violation have not been cured. A third violation may also be established where 3 or more conditions constituting such violation exist at a property simultaneously. Unless otherwise provided in this chapter, all penalties or violations in this chapter shall be enforced by citation pursuant to Chapter 128 of the Code of the City of West Haven, Enforcement of Ordinances. For purposes of appeal, the Board of Police Commissioners shall act as the Board of Appeals with respect to citations issued pursuant to this chapter. All penalties or violations shall apply to both residential and commercial blight. 2, in addition thereto, the mayor or his or her designee, we might want to modify that, is authorized to initiate legal proceedings in the Superior Court to enforce any notice, summons, or citation issued pursuant to this chapter, or to seek immediate correction of those violations, collection of any civil penalties, and the recovery of all costs, including costs for remedial action, authorized by the court and a reasonable attorney's fee incurred by the City of West Haven to enforce this chapter. Almost done. 3, all civil penalties, court costs, course of remedial action, and attorney's fees as ordered by the court shall constitute a lien on the subject premises, provided the owner of said premises has been notified of the violation as herein provided and was made a party of the formal proceedings, and any amounts for said fines, court costs, costs of remedial action, and the attorney's fee may be collected shall be paid to the city's general fund. 4, the following officers and agents of the city are authorized to enforce the provisions of this chapter: A, building official and his or her designees; B, all officers of the West Haven Police Department; C, zoning enforcement officer; D, property maintenance inspectors. And that concludes the first read.
Thank you very much. Moving on to public lands, Chairman Donovan.
Thank you, Chairman. We have before us Communication B from Mayor Durandabor regarding the proposal of the Savin Rock Conference Center property. We made a motion to refer the plan to lease and redevelop city-owned property located at 6 Rock Street, also known as Savin Rock Conference Center, submitted by RFT Hospitality Group LLC to the Planning and Zoning Commission for its consideration and written report back to the City Council pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes Section 8-24. That's all we have to do on that, right? We're holding it? Oh, okay. Oh, we're holding it until we get, gotcha, okay, sorry, so we're holding that. I read that for nothing. We also have before us Communication D To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Public Lands, to whom was referred the matter of Communication D from the September 9th, 2024 agenda from Mayor Dorinda Borer regarding the sale of city-owned property at 69 Westfield Street. Reports that the committee met on the 15th day of October 2024 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Whereas in accordance with the highest bid received from 90 Admiral LLC in response to the request for proposal issued by the City of West Haven for the acquisition of the city-owned property located at 69 Westfield Street, which bid was received, reviewed, and considered by the City Council. Whereas the City Council of the City of West Haven held a public hearing on Tuesday, October 15th, 2024, to review and discuss the highest bid and supporting documentation. Resolved, the City Council of the City of West Haven, after review and due consideration, hereby approves the bid in the amount of $65,000 received from 90 Admiral LLC for the city-owned property located at 69 Westfield Street. Further resolved, Dorinda Borer, as mayor of the City of West Haven, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents related to this resolution on behalf of the City of West Haven and to do and perform all acts and things which deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all agreements and documents contemplated by such documents. I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion regarding the sale of city-owned property located at 69 Westfield Street. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Public Lands is all set, Chairman.
Thank you. You did such a great job. Why don't we go right into the streets and
Sure, why
squares?
not? We have Communication D from your committee from Streets and Squares. The Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Streets and Squares, to whom was referred the matter of the request from Robert Sandella, Acting Commissioner of Public Works, requesting approval to install additional lighting in front of 39 Harold Street. Reports that the committee met on the 15th day of October 2024 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves the request from Robert Sandella, Acting Commissioner of Public Works, requesting approval to install additional lighting in front of 39 Harold Street. So moved.
Thank you. I have a motion regarding a matter of approval to install additional lighting in front of 39 Harold Street. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, adoption of ordinances previously presented. We have none. Council liaison reports. Are there any reports to the council? Councilwoman Heffernan.
I have really good news. The library navigator funds were approved and sent to the library. They have finally got their money, and they danced all the way to the bank. They're very thankful that they received them. So thank you, Mayor Borer, for your help in acquiring them. They're really appreciative. It's a good program. It really is a good program. And I also need to thank Leo Kelly, our tree warden, who was really instrumental in helping get some limbs off dead trees that were really concerning to some residents that were hanging over power lines. One of my residents had their power was disconnected from their house, and they were able to get another limb that was potentially going to do the same thing. And someone else also had a similar problem. Both trees were taken care of very, very nicely, and very neatly and amazingly well done job. So thank you, Public Works, our tree people, and Leo Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other liaison reports? Councilwoman Callahan?
Thank you very much. I'd like to give a big shout out to our Marginal Drive folks. They've really come a long way with helping with cleanup and getting everyone instrumentally involved. I would like to invite anyone who's interested that they have a website. They do a canoe ride. They do walkthroughs. It's really an untouched area in our district that is beautiful and has a lot of potential. And thank you so much for unconditional love for these projects. And if anybody's interested in helping, it's the first Saturday of the month, and we're on Marginal Drive at 9, I think we go. 10. Oh, okay, 10 to 12. And we do it in coalition with a lot of volunteers. And just want to say thank you, and also an invitation to anybody who wants to come out and join and, see what it's all about. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other liaison reports? Councilwoman Garthwaite?
Just want to remind everybody that the shelter has their monthly bottle sort this coming Saturday, October 19th, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Thank you. Other liaison reports? Councilwoman Coletti?
Both C's, it's fine.
It's too many C's.
As far as economic development, Mayor Board, do you want to do the honors on a quick update for the small business grant program?
Sure. So this is the remember the the aid to small business under the ARPA, the $400,000. That was a very detailed project because it had to be by federal guidelines, which we understand. But this was the $10,000 grants that businesses can apply for facade upgrade for windows, doors, patio, facade, HVAC. So businesses that applied needed to be, taxes in good standing, have their W-9, show what they were going to do. But it's a very rewarding project because to date, I think it's $270,000 that was awarded last week. Those businesses are very happy. And the next ARPA meeting will probably do another like 125 or so. My numbers are a little off. But it was open to businesses across the city, and a number in the downtown area took advantage of it. We have Quest, Carolyn Sires, I think. And then there's a whole block downtown where Johnny's is, where that owner applied. So there's going to be, a number of grants there. So it was really an opportunity. That funding was sitting there. So this was really an opportunity to get that out the door and really show a difference for small businesses. So it really helps with growth. And when people are looking to come to the city, it's nice to drive around and see a little bit more of an attractive look.
Absolutely. Thank you. Not only the panel, but the Economic Development Commission, Olivia Basante played a huge role. This was like executing 40 independent projects almost all through ARPA committee guidelines. The mayor, as well as Steve Fontana and Kathleen Krosek as well. So I wanted to everyone to have an update on that and to thank everyone for their involvement. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council liaison reports? Councilwoman Callahan?
I'd just like to say also thank you for all the beautiful paintings of the electrical boxes. Well done job. She's amazing, and it really has put a bright light in our city. So thank you to that.
Anyone else?
I do have a question. My Sanford Street constituents are still wondering, Mayor, if there's been any update.
Let's see. Sanford Street.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Awesome.
Can I give an update? I do want to say though that there's a couple of residents that water flows from one resident's property to the other. We don't get involved when that happens. That's a neighbor to neighbor dispute. We can't rectify those issues. So if one is flooding into the other, so I know that that's a situation that keeps coming up. So for Liddy Street and Sanford Street, the consultant has completed field work study and now is planning to do the survey of existing stormwaters. They're going to do the TV inspection of the sewers. That'll be done mid-November. And then the model will be developed to determine the system's capacity to handle storms. So the consultant is also installing rain gauges and flow meters at 3 locations to calibrate the model, which will be utilized to recommend solutions for future rainstorms and various alternatives to mitigate the flooding. Preliminary designs will be prepared and final report will be at the end of December 2025. Public meeting will be also held once a public meeting will be held once the model is developed, and that's probably going to be December or January. So I know these projects take a long time for You know, I'm probably the least patient person in the world, so for me, it's very frustrating. But there's a number of sequential steps, and a lot of it is the permitting. It's a lot of what takes up a lot of time. But that's where we are.
When it comes to the water to water, is that because somebody altered their property? Was there like an alteration that would create that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
Councilman-
So what has happened in what I've actually seen? There's two houses next to the individual that's
Yep.
concerned or complained, I should say.
Yep.
And what they've done, they've run their storm drains directly facing this individual's yard. So as it rains, all the piping from the backyards
Yep.
and the side is going straight down into her yard. And feel free to. I will call you if you want to take a ride over there, and we can. We can see together. Seriously, that's what's happened. Like all the draining, and everything's just draining down into her yard. I mean, there's a draining system, but it tends to get backed up a lot in her yard.
Yeah, right. No, because we had the same issue on Harding Avenue, where there was a lot of flooding.
Okay.
All caused for a variety of reasons. But one of the property owners had filled in a culvert, so that's not the city's deal. I mean, it's not their responsibility. So it sounds like this is the same case. That's why I was just curious.
No
That's
problem.
all. Yep.
All set, Councilman?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. We're on liaison reports. Any other liaison reports? None? I know that we kind of transgress into new business. Is there any other new business? Not your fault. Any new business from the council? Councilwoman Garthwaite?
So I want to take this opportunity to thank Kathy Hebert, Rich Hebert, Sandy Point Neighborhood Association for their cleanup on Saturday. Mayor, I know you know what's going on at the boat ramp. There's a lot of partying. There's some drugs being sold during the twilight hours. I myself picked up hundreds of bottle caps. It was astonishing to me to see that much. That's something we sort of used to see at Sandy Point Bird Sanctuary parking lot, but now thank you, West Haven Police Department, for closing our gates. We don't get that anymore. So I'm wondering, is there something that we can do I know we're supposed to keep it open for boaters, but it's a quality of life issue for our people that are surrounding that boat area with the partying, the noise. I got a couple of physical letters from neighbors that were very upset about it, and I would like to see some sort of. You've done a lot, and I give you a lot of credit because we didn't get that with our last time around, and you have really cleaned up that area. I just would like to see us do something more. I have spoken to the traffic sergeant about this. He's very aware, and he is doing some more patrols in that area. But the shore patrol is now, I think it's dissolved now, and the crime prevention patrol is taking over. So he's going to look into keeping on top of that. For the quality of life of the surrounding residents, I'd like to see perhaps maybe even some sort of, I hate to say this, permanent PD overnight, just there continuously. I know that it's tough. That's what the sergeant said, but if there's anything else that you can think of.
I do get those complaints as well, and it's frustrating because the first week we upgraded the boat ramp, there was a car that went through the brand new fence. So it's challenging. We can't put gates there because it's different than the other lots because April Street is there, so there's residents. So we obviously can't block off the access to the April Street where the residents live. And then if we did it unrelated to April Street, there's just that stretch you can't you can't fit a gate there.
Right.
So it's unfortunate. So we put the fencing up to deter the dumping. So that has helped with the dumping. I've asked the police several times, which they do, to circle 3rd Avenue Park boat ramp, 3rd Avenue Park boat ramp. So they do that. And then we have the cameras going up.
Do you know when the camera's going up?
A camera's going up because of the parking, but we also have a camera that's going on top of the sewer plant that also they're trying to have that navigate into the boat ramp.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a challenge, and
I
I
know it is.
understand. We can't park police there. There's so many places we want to park police.
Yeah, I know.
But they just, on their night shift, they do circle there. It's just a tough spot, but we'll keep working on it.
Okay.
Because it's important to me as well.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate
You're welcome.
it.
All set? Thank you. Any other new business from the council?
The floodgates that you put on Campbell Avenue, wonderful. Will you be placing them at, I believe it's Washington Avenue? Are they forthcoming?
Yes. So there's 3 spots, the underpasses, for the floodgates. In the beginning, I would listen to this conversation between PD and Public Works. Public Works saying, well, we can't have our people there during the storm, and police saying, well, we can't have our people there, so we put up these little wooden horses. And I say, well, why don't we put up gates? And at first, I don't know that everybody wanted to do that because they were afraid people might drive through them. But we worked on lights, stop signs, detour signs. We got professional gates. They do them in New Haven. So I'm very glad that Campbell Avenue, Washington Avenue, and I do get a lot of questions about Morgan Lane because that is where, unfortunately, a woman about 15, maybe 20 years ago passed away going under there. But there was actually some storm drainage that was fixed under Morgan Lane, and it doesn't flood the way it used to anymore. So between police, Public Works, and Emergency Services, they don't think we need the gates there. They're going to continue to monitor it at Morgan. But at Campbell and Washington, not only did we put the gates up, but now we're putting cameras because we actually drive around in storms to see where it's flooded. Like, we actually get in our car and drive, like, do we have to put the gates up before it was? Do we have to put the horses up? So we're going to put cameras there so we could monitor the flooding and when we have to put the gate up. And then we also, if you notice, put things up that say 1 feet, 2 feet, 3 feet, right? So that it's more of a visual, because when it's underwater, you can't see where it is. So, yes, I love them. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other new business? Mayor, do you have anything?
The only other thing I want to add, because we talked about the new business, is 2 other things that we do because the activity down the beach slows down in the wintertime. I've worked with the chief, and we're moving a beat down the center. So we're going to have somebody who is going to be on foot patrol from 11 to 4, started last week. And then we're going to have the another patrol like we used to have years ago from 4 to 11. That's going to, do the downtown perimeter and beyond. And then we have the bar monitors that we've always had, but they'll be in force as well. So Officer Vinny, that's what we call him. He started last week. He is just going to walk around. He's introducing himself to businesses. He's coming in and out of City Hall. Our guards have his phone number. Key people downtown have the phone number, so that obviously you call 911 if there's an issue. But unfortunately I had to call him yesterday for somebody who came up to my office. But we just say, hey, you want to take a walk up and just kind of de-escalate this. So I'm very happy of that change, and I thank the police department they're really working well with us. And then the other thing, just small thing, but that whole Greater New Haven Italian American event, it was a 3 event, a kickoff dinner, a dinner, and then the festival this weekend. We honor Mark Consorti as the Grand Marshal and Celia Pinzi for our Laura Luzzy Award. So I want to thank Public Works, Police, everybody who worked on that. And then finally, I just want to let you know, just a little heads up. So Standard & Poor's has changed their methodology for how they rate a municipality. And there was about 450 cities, government agencies across the country that had been previously flagged, so they will be being reevaluated. And lucky us, we are one of them. So we've been prepping for this rating call. We spent a lot of time on it today. We're going to continue to do that. The rating call's next week. So, you know, when we sit down and we talk about all that we have done, I can't imagine that we will be downgraded, but like, you know, you never know how so we're very anxious about it. Not anxious. I mean, I think we're in a good place, but you know, you want it over. It's kind of like going for another board. But so we're spending a lot of time on that. So I just want to let you know, keep your eyes on that. And then, oh, last but not least, I just want to tell you, because you worked on that ordinance with me about the tobacco licensing and renewal, because, right, the law passed to allow us to weigh in. So the chief and I put together a letter. We got a hold of everybody who has a tobacco license in the city. And we are sending them a letter this week saying, hey, heads up, we have passed this ordinance. We are monitoring. We have our eye on you. And if you have any violations, we will be recommending you do not get your tobacco license renewed. So we are charting who may serve to underage and who may be serving illegal products. And we're going to try to close them down. So thank you for your work on that.
Great news. Thank you, Mayor. Anything else from the council? All right. Really?
One last thing. Thank you for Jeff Moreno. That was a very, very West Haven Hispanic of the Year.
He was very, very, I never saw somebody so appreciative and so honored to get that honor. Very humble. Well deserved.
Anything else? You sure? Going once, going twice? All right. Thank you all.
Motion to adjourn.
Hope I get invited back someday soon. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, third, all in favor? Good night.